Chapter 1167. The Pathlord's face suddenly changed. He was still injured right now, having yet to recover from the wounds he had received from the barrier spirit of Mercenary City. He could temporarily protect himself against Ruijin in his current state, but he was not confident he could escape unscathed if the three of them attacked him at the same time. What troubled him the most was that Ruijin, Heiyu, and Heiyu were all protected by origin energy treasures. Even someone as powerful as the Holy Emperor would struggle to injure them, and even his famed technique was unable to affect Ruijin, Heiyu, and Heiyu, who were protected by origin energy treasures. However, their origin energy weapons all possessed origin energy. This was a great power that only experts who had surpassed the Holy Emperor's level of cultivation could wield. It was a power on another level, so even Holy Emperors would struggle to endure being injured by this power. The Path Lord became extremely stern. He used the Holy Emperor's ability to control the power of the world and sent 3 palm strikes at Ruijin, Heiyu, and Heiyu from afar. Each palm strike possessed tremendous power and contained the mysteries of the world that the Holy Emperor had grasped. Even a peak expert at great perfection like the Holy Emperor would be as insignificant as an ant before such power. They would not be able to endure it at all. Ruijin, Honglian, and Black Fish showed no fear. They aggressively attacked the Path Lord. Before their origin energy weapons, the Path Lord's peerlessly powerful attacks were nothing. They were all dispersed by their origin energy weapons. Without slowing down at all, the 3 origin energy weapons all shone with eternal light as they shot toward the Path Lord. Ruijin, Heiyu, and Heiyu all hated the Path Lord to the extreme, so they used their full strength this time. The 3 origin energy weapons shot over in a triangular formation, radiating with tremendous presences that caused space to freeze. They had already locked onto the Path Lord's presence. The Path Lord struggled to maintain his composure from before. He suddenly bellowed out, "Do you really think I'm that easy to bully?" Immediately, a vast and surging storm of energy erupted from his body, forming a hurricane of energy that wreaked havoc in all directions. It caused space to tremble and tear open one spatial crack after another. An extremely pure and powerful energy had condensed in his hands. He avoided the aggressive Ruijin and Honglian and took the initiative to approach Black Fish. One of his hands seemed to have fused with space, creating a dreamlike blur in the air. It seemed slow, but it struck Black Fish's machete with great speed. It was not a collision between a hand and an origin energy weapon. Instead, it struck the side of the machete with tremendous energy, knocking the machete to the side. Black Fish's arm became numb from the tremendous force. After knocking the machete aside, the Path Lord's other hand struck Black Fish's chest with lightning-like speed. Powerful energy erupted from his hand, knocking Black Fish far away. The origin energy armor on him flickered rapidly, fending off the power from the Path Lord's palm strike. The Path Lord immediately charged out through the opening. He knew that it was very difficult for him to injure Ruijin and the other 2 who were protected by the origin energy armor. He would not be able to gain any benefits if he continued fighting with his heavily injured body. At this moment, a terrifyingly high temperature swept over from behind. The scorching Godfire hairpin had already arrived behind him with a ball of terrifying white flames. His speed was extremely fast, and he was almost at the Path Lord's back. The Path Lord no longer had the time to dodge. He turned around and hurriedly struck out with his hand, controlling the energy in the surroundings to block the hairpin's attack. However, the Path Lord had only struck out with his palm strike in a hurry. It was not powerful enough, so the hairpin dispersed it like a hot knife through butter. It continued towards the Path Lord's face. The Path Lord's eyes narrowed. With a wave of his hand, a divine hall immediately flew out of his space ring. It expanded from the size of fist to the size of a house in a single instance, blocking the Path Lord's path. In the end, the scorching Godfire heavenly hairpin struck the divine hall, erupting with a deafening boom. The entire divine hall shook violently as cracks rapidly spread out. However, at this moment, a resplendent golden light suddenly flickered behind the Path Lord. Ruijin had silently arrived behind the Path Lord at a certain time. He wielded his sword with his right hand as he formed a seal with his left hand. The sacred dragon's sword stabbed towards the Path Lord as a golden streak of light. The Path Lord was surprised when he sensed the situation behind him. Ruijin had appeared far too suddenly, and he had failed to sense him at all. He sighed inside. The various abilities and secret techniques of the dragon race really are wondrous. Although he thought about it, the Path Lord's reaction was extremely fast. With the abilities of the Holy Emperor, he directly ignored the rippling space and fused with the space there in an attempt to dodge Ruijin's attack. Secret technique of the dragon race, spatial lock. At that crucial moment, Ruijin's left hand suddenly pressed gently against the space there, causing the space before him to instantly freeze up. It became as tough as a rock. Caught off guard, the Path Lord was affected as well. He froze up and became immobilized. However, in the next moment, the Path Lord used his supreme strength to shatter the frozen space, forcefully breaking through Ruijin's secret technique. However, due to the delay, he had lost the best opportunity to dodge. Ruijin's sacred dragon's sword stabbed him mercilessly, penetrating his chest from his back. The Path Lord grunted. The feeling of having his chest pierced by the sacred dragon's sword with origin energy was definitely not pleasant. The wounds he had suffered were far greater than usual. Bang! The Path Lord kicked backwards, landing on Ruijin's chest with great accuracy. He sent Ruijin flying far away and pulled the sacred dragon's sword out of his chest. The Path Lord's white robes were already dyed red with blood. His already pale face became even paler, and his injuries became even more severe. Holy Emperor of the Humans, die! With a delicate cry, flames surged around Honglian. She made her way around the Divine Hall and continued to attack the Path Lord with the scorching Godfire hairpin. Her cold eyes were filled with killing intent. The Path Lord rapidly retreated as he glanced at Ruijin and Honglian with a sunken gaze. He gritted his teeth and said, "If I hadn't been injured by the barrier spirit of Mercenary City, the three of you wouldn't have been able to harm me. However, if I wanted to leave, the three of you wouldn't be able to stop me." The Path Lord retreated again and again, no longer making direct contact with Honglian and the others. He slowly moved his hands with the profound truths of the world, as if he had established some sort of connection with the space there. The two of them resonated with each other from afar. Spatial shatter. Suddenly, the Path Lord of carnal desires bellowed out. Immediately, an extremely powerful force of the world surged out. The space before him began to shatter and collapse, turning into eternal darkness. There was only nothingness within. Chapter 1168. The space shattered by the Path Lord collapsed piece by piece, and the area affected grew wider and wider. From afar, it seemed like a huge black hole had appeared, preventing Ruijin, Honglian, and Black Fish from approaching it. They avoided it from afar. The Path Lord of carnal desires had vanished from the collapsed space filled with darkness. The collapsed space had blocked their vision. A while later, the collapsed space slowly began to recover. In the end, it returned to its original state, but the Path Lord of carnal desires had already vanished. "I can't believe he managed to escape," Honglian said angrily with a furious look on her face. "The Holy Emperor knows quite a few abilities. It's obviously nothing difficult for the three of us to fend off the Holy Emperor, but it'll still be difficult to kill an expert of that level. However, the Holy Emperor has already been struck by my sword. My sword pierced his chest, so he won't be able to recover in a short amount of time. Although I failed to kill him, I made him pay a certain price," Ruijin said. His voice was filled with some pity. "Let's go find Jinshin as soon as possible. He left with the people of the Protector clans. Although we're from the same clan, all familial ties and friendships are useless before the Saint's fruit. I'm worried that he'll be in danger. He's our only hope of returning to our clansmen, so we can't let anything happen to him. At the same time, Blackfish's poison is getting worse and worse. He needs the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force to heal," Honglian said sternly. Ruiji nodded. He immediately left with Honglian and Blackfish. He constantly used secret techniques to find Jinshin's traces. After Ruijin, Heiyu, and Heiyu's departure, the scattered Holy Emperor experts in the air all sighed and left as well. Many of them were jealous, regretful, and unwilling. Many of them had been looking forward to the day when they could become an expert at the level of the Holy Emperor, standing at the apex of the pyramid and above the protector clans. Now that they had missed out on the saint's fruit, even they found it rather difficult to accept the great ups and downs. This was because there was not a single Holy Emperor who was not tempted by the Holy Emperor's level of cultivation. Once they reached that level of cultivation, not only would they gain unprecedented strength, they would also gain a lifespan of several thousand years. The area outside the death nest rapidly became much quieter. Most of the Holy Emperor experts had already left. Only a few of them remained, unwilling to leave. When Jinshin and the great elders of Changyang Prefecture emerged from the space gate, they were no longer in the same space. Instead, they had entered an independent miniature world. The energy of the world was extremely abundant there, and the scenery was beautiful. It was an extremely beautiful miniature world. Jinshin glanced around, and a gleam of light flashed through his eyes. He had been here before, so he could tell with a single glance that this was where the protector clans of Changyang Prefecture resided. Changyang Qingyan directly returned to the protector clan with Jinshin through the space gate. The space where the protector clans resided was isolated from the outside world. Under normal circumstances, the world gate would be tightly shut and completely cut off from the outside world. They could only leave through special methods. Jinshin did not feel any sense of security at all when he was in a place like this. Instead, he felt a great sense of danger. The sense of danger was even more intense than when he was surrounded by the vengeful spirits of the Holy Emperor. Jinshin's heart sank, but he did not show it on the surface. He discreetly observed the great elders beside him and discovered that they were all filled with joy and excitement from the bottom of their hearts. Jinshin could even see passion and eagerness in Changyang Qingyan's eyes. He was extremely excited. At this moment, Changyang Qingyan also looked at Jinshin. Just when he wanted to say something, Jinshin beat him to it. Great elders, I'm very heavily injured. I need to find a place to heal immediately, or there might be repercussions. Jinshin was covered in blood right now. He seemed like a bloody person. His body was covered in vicious wounds, so deep that his bones could be seen. It was a horrible sight. If it were not for his tough, chaotic body, he probably would have collapsed long ago. Xiangtian, your wounds are just too heavy. Come with us to the ancestral hall to heal first. There are medicines stored there that can help you recover quickly, Chanyang Zhu Yunkong said in concern. Thank you for your concern, great-grandfather, but I have medicines on me, so I can deal with them myself. Jinshin's face changed when he reached there. He immediately vomited a mouthful of blood and weakly said, My wounds are rapidly worsening. I can't delay any longer. I need to find a place to heal immediately. With that, Jinshin flew toward a mountain nearby while trembling. He used his emperor armament to carve out a hole and disappeared inside. Chanyang Qingyun stared at Jinshin's back deeply. The light in his eyes flickered as he became uneasy. However, he recovered very soon and laughed aloud. I never thought that the saint's fruit would end up in our Changyang Prefecture's hands. This is just far too significant to our Changyang Prefecture. Before long, a holy emperor will appear in our Changyang Prefecture. Yeah, once Xiangtian consumes the saint's fruit, he'll definitely be able to successfully break through to the level of holy emperor with his talent. Changyang Zhu Yunkong gently smiled. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao faintly smiled. Indescribable pride filled his face as he glanced at Changyang Qingyun from the corner of his eyes. Changyang Qingyun's face stiffened when he heard that, but it only lasted for a split second. He recovered in the blink of an eye and smiled. That's right. Xiangtian's talent is unprecedented, reaching such accomplishments in less than a century. I believe Xiangtian will break through to the level of Holy Emperor very soon and become a supreme expert that could deter the world. All right, let's stop here. We've all exhausted ourselves in the death's nest, so let's hurry up and recover. Right now, we need to maintain our peak condition and deal with any sudden attacks from other experts. After all, the temptation of the saint's fruit is just far too great. We need to be on guard at all times. The great elders of Chanyang Prefecture all left at the same time. They all went to the ancestral hall in the center. Jianshun stood in the cave with a rather sunken face. Under the envelopment of his soul, the conversations and expressions of the great elders of Chanyang Prefecture could not escape his eyes. He could clearly see their reactions. This really isn't a safe place. Chanyang Qin Yun's desire for the saint's fruit is just too great. As for the other great elders, they haven't shown it yet, but who knows what they're thinking, Jianshun sighed. At that moment, he suddenly felt that the people of Chanyang Prefecture could not be trusted, including Chanyang Zhu Xiao and Chanyang Zuyin Xiao. Chapter 1169. My priority right now is to recover as soon as possible. I need to return to my peak condition in the shortest amount of time possible. Only then can I deal with the dangers that may come later. It's a pity that Rui Jin and the other two aren't here. Otherwise, even if the great elders of Chanyang Prefecture really do have ill intentions and want to steal my saint's fruit, there would be no need for me to fear them so much. It's a pity that my current strength is nowhere near enough to contend against them, Jianshun thought. He cast down a barrier at the entrance of the cave and entered the artifact space to heal. 2 days later, 2 days passed. During that time, everything in Chanyang Prefecture was peaceful. The 7 great elders of Chanyang Prefecture were recovering the saint force they had expended in the death's nest in the ancestral hall. Jianshun had also remained in the artifact space for 2 days. His wounds had already been healed by the artifact spirit, and he had returned to his peak condition. I still can't go out right now. Once I do, it's extremely likely that they'll want the saint's fruit from me. If I don't give it to them, conflict will be unavoidable. I definitely won't be able to keep the saint's fruit with my current strength. So the best method right now is to stall for time and hope that Rui Jin and the others can find me in time. At that time, I won't have to fear Chanyang Prefecture anymore, Jianshun thought. He was currently in the independent space of Chanyang Prefecture. It could be described as the safest place, but it could also be described as the most dangerous because there was an extraordinarily powerful Emperor armament that had been passed down for a very long time. Once the Emperor armament unleashed its might, he would not be able to fend it off even with his divine hall and saint artifact. Within the forbidden grounds of the Tyrant's Blade School, the 30-meter-tall wave-breaking blade hovered 3 feet above the ground with the tip pointed downwards and the hilt pointed upwards. It emitted a hazy glow. This glow was not like the glow of an ordinary jewel. Instead, it was a blade light that contained immense power. Vaguely, an extremely domineering blade, qi, circulated around the wave-breaking blade. The founding ancestor of the Tyrant's Blade School, Guihai Yi Dao, sat on the hilt of the wave-breaking blade in simple robes. He was completely enveloped by the terrifying glow from the blade, so he was unharmed. It seemed like the wave-breaking blade was protecting him. Powerful and pure energy constantly surged out from the wave-breaking saber. In the end, Guihai Dao absorbed it like a whale sucking in water. His body was like a bottomless pit. No matter how much energy entered his body, it was like a rock sinking into the ocean. It would never be filled. The Emperor armaments of protector clans had always been known as forbidden weapons. They cannot be touched unless absolutely necessary because they were just too powerful. They required several holy Emperor experts to work together to barely control them, and they would even suffer a backlash from the Emperor armament. Even holy Emperor experts would become heavily injured, which was more than enough to demonstrate the terror of the Emperor armament. No one had ever absorbed the energy from the Emperor armament to cultivate. Even during the glorious era when the holy Emperor experts were born, they never dared to do so. Guihai Dao was the only one who dared to do so. As the energy from the Emperor armament was constantly absorbed, Guihai Dao's presence skyrocketed at basically every moment. It was so fast that it was shocking. His strength increased extremely quickly, so he did not need to comprehend the mysteries of the world. Recovering his memories was equivalent to recovering his former cultivation level. A few figures flew over from afar before kneeling outside politely in the end. They were the great elders of the Tyrant's Blade School. All of them were dejected and gloomy. Founding Ancestor, the disciples have returned. It's because of our incompetence that we were unable to retrieve the saint's fruit, an old man said humbly. He was extremely unwilling to accept this. Guihai Dao slowly opened his eyes. His gaze seemed extremely calm right now, but a sharpness was hidden deep within. It was like a blade that was filled with sharpness and a hint of dominance. He directly looked in the direction of the death nest, as if he wanted to see through space and into the distant world. It's fine. The saint's fruit isn't very important. It can indeed allow people to become emperors, but you can still break through to Holy Emperor without it, Guihai Dao said in an extremely calm voice. But Ancestor, reaching Saint Emperor is already extremely difficult. There's a gap in the Saint Emperors of our protector clans. We only have one Saint Emperor on the Tianyuan continent right now, and he only managed to reach Saint Emperor by forging a different path of cultivation through his own willpower, said a great elder bitterly. Guihai Dao glanced past them. The great elders all shivered inside under his gaze. At that moment, they all felt like they had been locked onto by an extremely sharp blade. They actually felt a sliver of fear from the bottom of their hearts. The great elders of the Tyrant's Blade School were utterly astounded. At the same time, they felt even more admiration and fear for Guihai Dao. They knew that although Guihai Dao had only become a Saint King recently, his true strength was no longer something that could be judged from his appearance. I can make you emperors in 100 years at most, and a few decades at least. You've all been able to wait for this day, Guihai Dao nonchalantly said. However, his calm words were like a bolt from the blue in the ears of the Tyrant's Blade School's supreme elders. All of them felt that it was inconceivable. Founding Ancestor, all of you are dismissed. Properly consolidate your foundations in the past few years. Guihai Dao interrupted the great elder. Yes, Founding Ancestor. Even though the great elders were doubtful, they did not dare to disobey Guihai Dao's orders. They all retreated politely. After they left, Guihai Dao looked in the direction of the death nest again. He murmured, "Just what is Mo Tianyin trying to do? He's actually gone to such great lengths to create the death nest. Even I cannot help but feel admiration for his methods." Chapter 1170. Jianshun remained in the artifact space within Chanyang Prefecture. In his eyes, Chanyang Prefecture was no longer a safe place. It had become extremely dangerous. Staying there was equivalent to being trapped in this space. Without the corresponding secret technique, it was impossible for him to open the world gate. On this day, Chanyang Prefecture became especially quiet. Many clansmen locked themselves up in secret rooms to cultivate diligently. They could clearly sense the abundant energy of the world outside rapidly gather in a few mountains or a few buildings. From afar, there were only a few scattered juniors cultivating in the surroundings or hiding in remote places, using battle techniques against extremely tough walls. Outside the majestic ancestral hall in the center, a seemingly old but upright figure suddenly appeared. His aura was restrained, and he looked like an ordinary old man. He was one of the 7 great elders of Chanyang Prefecture, Chanyang Qingyan. Chanyang Qingyan silently appeared at the entrance of the ancestral hall. His deep eyes shone brightly. He first looked around before looking at the mountain where Jianshun cultivated. After a slight hesitation, a gleam of light flashed through his eyes. With a movement, he silently flew over there with great speed. In the blink of an eye, Chanyang Qingyan arrived outside the cave. He calmly looked at the barrier Jianshun had cast down at the entrance of the cave as a mocking smile appeared on his face. Afterward, he changed his hand seals and used a wondrous secret technique. He actually passed through the barrier silently, like he had teleported and entered the cave. He did not touch the barrier at all. After all, Jianshun's comprehension of the mysteries of the world remained at the level of saint rulers. In front of Chanyang Qingyan, who had grasped many secret techniques, and had reached great perfection as the Holy Emperor, Jianshan was basically useless. In the gloomy cave, the fist-sized saint artifact hovered in the air with a faint golden light. It dispersed quite a lot of the darkness in the cave. Chanyang Qingyun stood before the saint artifact with his hands behind his back. He stared at the artifact in interest and frowned slightly. He murmured to himself, "I never thought that this brat would be so smart. He's actually hiding in the tower to heal. He's basically cutting off any chance of me obtaining the saint's fruit from him like that." Chanyang Qingyun was unwilling to accept this. He constantly circled around the saint artifact as his face gradually sank. He murmured, "This tower is extremely tough. Only Holy Emperor-level experts can destroy it. I can't do anything to him while he's hiding in there. What should I do?" Jianshan sat on the roof of one of the majestic halls in the center of the artifact space. His face was extremely ugly. The saint artifact had already accepted him as its master, so he had established an extremely obscure mental connection with it long ago. Although he was currently in the saint artifact, he was extremely clear about the situation outside through the artifact spirit's assistance. Jianshan knew all of Chanyang Qingyun's actions like the back of his hand the moment he entered the cave. I never thought that Chanyang Qingyun would be in such a hurry, coming to find me so quickly. I wonder just how many people are still thinking about the saint's fruit." Jianshan coldly replied. His gaze was extremely cold. He knew that if he had not hidden in the artifact space beforehand, he probably would have been killed by Chanyang Qingyun already. Chanyang Qingyun paced around outside for a while before clenching his teeth. He coldly said, "Since that brat is hiding in the tower, I might as well take it away. I'll slowly think of a way to get out of here in the future." Just when Chanyang Qingyun wanted to take the saint artifact away, his face suddenly changed. He glanced outside the cave before arriving at the edge of the wall in a flash. He silently fused with the rock and vanished. Before long, one of the 7 great elders, Chanyang Qingjuri, arrived. Just like Chanyang Qingyun, he used a secret technique to pass through the barrier and enter the cave. He lingered around the saint artifact for quite a while before his face changed in the end. He sensed that someone had arrived, so he immediately used a secret technique to hide himself in the rock. The third person to enter the cave was one of the 7 great elders, Chanyang Yuan Zhenghua. They all knew many secret techniques, so Jianshan's barrier was completely useless against them. Chanyang Yuan Zhenghua also frowned when he saw the saint artifact hovering in the cave. However, at this moment, 2 powerful presences appeared in the distance. Chanyang Zuyunshao and Chanyang Zushao left the ancestral hall at the same time, directly flying toward the mountain where Jianshan was healing. Unlike the 3 people before, the 2 of them did not conceal themselves at all. They swaggered over, surprising all the clansmen in Chanyang Prefecture to raise their heads. Their eyes were filled with respect. Chanyang Yuan Zhenghua was surprised inside the cave. It was already too late for him to leave, so he did the same thing as Chanyang Qingyun and Chanyang Qingjuri. He used a secret technique to fuse with the surrounding rock and conceal his presence. Chanyang Zushao and Chanyang Zuyunshao arrived outside the cave at the same time. They hovered 10 meters away from the entrance as they stared at the cave deeply. They did not step in. Looks like Xiang Tian is still healing inside. I wonder when he'll be able to make a full recovery, Chanyang Zhu Xiao nonchalantly said. Xiang Tian is also a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master, so he possesses powerful Radiant Saint force. His wounds may be very heavy, but I think he'll make a full recovery very quickly with Radiant Saint force. Great-grandfather, why don't you return to the ancestral hall to rest first? I'll wait here for Xiang Tian to come out, said Chanyang Zuyunshao. Chanyang Zushao hesitated slightly before nodding. All right. Yunshao, you can stay here. I'll return to the ancestral hall first. Chanyang Zushao turned around and left while Chanyang Zuyunshao stayed behind. He found a flat spot outside the cave and sat down. 3 meters in front of him was the barrier that Jianshan had cast down at the entrance of the cave. Jianshan murmured as he sat on the roof of a hall within the artifact space. Of the 7 great elders of the Chanyang Prefecture, 3 of them have already tried to attack me while I was healing. Fortunately, Chanyang Zuyun Shao and Chanyang Zhu Shao appeared in time, or the 3 of them would have taken the Saint artifact away. Right now, Chanyang Zuyun Shao is personally standing guard outside so that the people in the cave won't dare to do anything. Is he doing this because he already knew that the 3 of them would be here, so he's keeping them busy, or is it just a coincidence? But I still can't trust any of them right now. Jianshan lowered his head and thought for a while before moving. He silently vanished from the artifact space and arrived in the gloomy cave when he reappeared. He could not stay here any longer, as it was very easy for him to fall into a trap. Instead of that, it was better for him to appear before them openly. Perhaps they would be wary of him and not attack him so easily. Jianshan stowed the Saint artifact away and made his way out of the cave like nothing had happened. When he discovered Chanyang Zuyun Shao sitting outside, a sliver of surprise immediately appeared on his face. He asked, "Great-grandfather, why are you here? Do you have something urgent that you need me for?" Chanyang Zuyun Shao stood up and studied Jianshan. He smiled. "Xiangtian, looks like you've completely recovered. Come with me to the ancestral hall. I just happen to have some things to discuss with you." Jianshan nodded before flying toward the floating piece of land with Chanyang Zuyun Shao. However, when they approached the majestic divine hall in the center, Jianshan stopped and said, "Great-grandfather, the scenery in the garden over there is quite nice. Why don't we go there and talk?" With that, Jianshan did not wait for Chanyang Zuyun Shao's agreement. He directly flew toward the nearby garden. Chanyang Zuyun Shao stared at Jianshan's back and did not become displeased at all. Instead, he faintly smiled and softly murmured, "This kid is pretty cautious." Afterward, Chanyang Zuyun Shao flew off in the direction of the garden. Before long, Chanyang Zhu Shao, Chanyang Yuan Wuji, and Chanyang Qing Yunfeng emerged from the ancestral hall. They all gathered in a pavilion in the garden. Xiangtian has done far too well this time. He actually managed to obtain the Saint's fruit in front of so many experts, and he even brought it back to the clan in perfect condition. That's right. Xiangtian's performance has been far too outstanding this time. He has obtained an extremely precious Saint's fruit for our Chanyang Prefecture. With the fruit, the strength of our Chanyang Prefecture will definitely skyrocket. Before long, our Chanyang Prefecture will have a holy emperor. Xiangtian has done us a great service. Wrong. It's not just one holy emperor, but 2. We've all witnessed Xiangtian's talent. He'll probably be able to break through to become a holy emperor through his own abilities in less than 100 years. Chanyang Yuan Wuji and Chanyang Qing Yinfeng endlessly praised Jianshan as soon as they arrived. They constantly praised him. Chanyang Zuyun Shao and Chanyang Zhu Shao did not say anything as they sat on the stone bench. Their faces were emotionless, making it impossible to tell what they were feeling. Jianshan's face became rather ugly. From what Chanyang Yuan Wuji and Chanyang Qing Yinfeng had said, they did not treat the Saint's fruit as something that belonged to him at all. Instead, they treated it as something that belonged to their clan. "Qingyin, why haven't Juri and Zhenghua come out yet? I've already notified them," Chanyang Qing Yunfeng suddenly asked. As soon as he finished speaking, Chanyang Qing Yun, Chanyang Qing Juri, and Chanyang Yuan Zhenghua appeared at the entrance of the ancestral hall. They flew over together. Chapter 1171. The great elders of the Chanyang Prefecture sat on the stone benches in the pavilion. Many of them faintly smiled and were unable to hide their joy. Only Jianshan was in a very bad mood because he knew that what they were about to discuss would definitely be related to the Saint's fruit. Chanyang Qingyan looked around and gently coughed. He said, "Since everyone's here, let's get to the main topic. I believe everyone knows what we're going to discuss next, so I won't beat around the bush. May I ask what everyone thinks about the distribution of the Saint's fruit?" Basically, all the experts on the continent know that our Chanyang Prefecture has obtained the Saint's fruit. In order to prevent a few experts from being tempted to attack our Chanyang Prefecture, we need to make the Saint's fruit work as soon as possible. Otherwise, once it's taken away by someone else, our losses will be extremely severe, Chanyang Qing Yunfeng righteously said. That's right. And the appearance of the saint's fruit this time has even led to a fight between the Path Lord of Carnal Desires and the 3 emperors of the Beast God continent. If the 4 of them attack our Chanyang prefecture without any regard for the consequences, we'll be in deep trouble, Chanyang Yuan Wuji said sternly. But there are 7 of us here, and only 1 saint's fruit. Who should we give it to? Chanyang Yuan Zhenghua said, after some thought. The light in his eyes flickered with uncertainty. Who else can we give it to? Aside from Qin Yun, is there anyone else in our Chanyang prefecture who has reached great perfection as the Holy Emperor? In my opinion, the saint's fruit should be consumed by Qin Yun. Only then can the saint's fruit be used to its fullest potential. Chanyang Qin Yunfeng loudly said. Qin Yun has already reached great perfection for many years. He's only a single step away from becoming a saint emperor. Using the saint's fruit on Qin Yun would instead be a waste, Chanyang Yuan Zhenghua said emotionlessly. Chanyang Qin Yun's face changed slightly. Before he could say anything else, Chanyang Qin Yunfeng suddenly stood up and struck the stone table before him with a palm strike. The extremely tough stone table was reduced to dust as he furiously said, Zhenghua, what are you trying to say? Are you saying that Qin Yun is useless? Chanyang Yuan Zhenghua faintly smiled and said, Brother Yunfeng, please don't be angry. Qin Yun is the only great perfection expert among us. He's the strongest person in our Chanyang prefecture. I just think that if we use the saint's fruit on Qin Yun, we won't be able to use it to its fullest potential. Zhenghua, Chanyang Qin Yun thinks to speak. Of course. Chanyang Yuan Zhenghua confidently smiled and said, Brother Qin Yun only lacks an opportunity to break through to Holy Emperor. If we give the saint's fruit to someone else, Brother Qin Yun will be able to comprehend the phenomenon of the world when they break through to Saint Emperor. That way, wouldn't 2 holy emperors have already appeared from a single saint's fruit? You make it sound so easy. If becoming a holy emperor was really that easy, there wouldn't have been a lack of holy emperors in our protector clans. Zhenghua, it looks like you probably want to obtain the saint's fruit for yourself. Chanyang Qin Juri coldly rebutted Chanyang Yuan Zhenghua. The great elders of Chanyang prefecture argued intensely. Their faces were flushed with anger, and they were on the verge of fighting. None of them noticed Jinshin's pallid face. Everyone, at this moment, Chanyang Zuyun Xiao, who had remained silent the entire time, finally spoke. He calmly said, You only care about the distribution of the saint's fruit, but you don't even think about who obtained it. The saint's fruit doesn't belong to any of us. It belongs to Xiangtian. That's right. Xiangtian's contributions to the battle for the saint's fruit are undeniable. However, if we hadn't interfered in the end, how would he have been able to escape? At the same time, Xiangtian's talent is unprecedented. He hasn't even reached 100 years of age, so his future is limitless. If he uses heavenly resources to become a holy emperor with such talent, it might not be a good thing for him. It's extremely likely that he won't be able to make any more progress after becoming a holy emperor, said Chanyang Qin Juri. Out of all of us, the person with the greatest right to distribute the saint's fruit is none other than Xiangtian. Xiangtian, tell me what you think. Chanyang Zuxiao spoke as well. He was very interested in the saint's fruit as well. After all, it was a sacred item that belonged to the holy emperor. Jianshun slowly glanced past the 7 of them and said, Great elders, we've all been arguing so intensely today, so why don't we talk about the saint's fruit some other time to avoid damaging our relationship? No, we can't keep the saint's fruit. Let's deal with it as soon as possible. I'm worried about an invasion, a great elder firmly said. Jinshin's heart sank. He knew that it was impossible to keep stalling, so he just made up his mind and said, To be honest, the saint's fruit already has an owner when I obtained it. The owner is not me, nor is it anyone else here. Is it the 3 magical beasts? No, the saint's fruit is a sacred item of the humans. It can't be consumed by magical beasts. Chanyang Qin Yun's reaction was the greatest. He suddenly stood up and glared at Jianshin. Wrong, it's not them. It's the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, Senior Tianjian. I originally went to pick the saint's fruit for Senior Tianjian, Jianshan said. He had no way out now. The garden fell silent. Everyone was stunned by Jianshan's words. No one had thought that Jianshan would actually give the saint's fruit to the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. No, you definitely can't. A while later, a bellow suddenly rang out. Chanyang Qingyun furiously glared at Jianshan and said, "The saint's fruit only appears once every 40,000 years. How can we give something so valuable to an outsider? Jianshan, as a clansman of the Chanyang Prefecture, you should consider the clan first. The saint's fruit is just far too important to the clan. What were you doing when I was fighting against the countless vengeful spirits of the Holy Emperor? What were you doing when Ruijin, Heiyu, and I fended off the encirclement of so many human experts? I obtained the saint's fruit by risking my life and blood, so logically speaking, it should belong to me. How I distribute it has nothing to do with you." Jianshan's attitude became firm as well. He would never hand over the saint's fruit. The great elders of Chanyang Prefecture all became extremely sunken. Even Chanyang Zushao and Chanyang Zuyinshao frowned. They could accept it if the saint's fruit was used by the people of Chanyang Prefecture, but they could not forgive Jianshan for giving it to an outsider. Jianshan looked at Chanyang Zuyinshao and said, "Great-grandfather, please send me away. It looks like it's no longer suitable for me to stay in the Protector clan." Chanyang Zhu Yunshao hesitated before nodding. "Xiangtian, you're a member of our Zhu branch. You're our pride. No matter what happens, as long as you don't go against our principles and do anything that harms the human race, our Zhu branch will stand by your side." With that, Chanyang Ziyinshao began to use a secret technique in an attempt to open a world gate for Jianshan to leave. "Hold on." Chanyang Qingyun struck out with his palm, causing the space there to violently tremble. He interrupted Chanyang Zhu Yunshao's actions and coldly stared at Jianshan. He growled, "You can leave, but you must leave the saint's fruit behind. I don't care how much effort you put into obtaining the saint's fruit, but as a member of the Protector clan, you must place the clan's interests above all else." "I won't leave the saint's fruit behind." Jianshan's voice became cold as well. His anger boiled inside. "Since you won't hand over the saint's fruit, I can only take it myself." A gleam of light flashed through Chanyang Qingyun's eyes. He arrived before Jianshan in a flash and directly reached for the space ring on his finger. He wanted to take it away from Jianshan. Jianshan was already prepared. The moment Chanyang Qingyun moved, the Emperor armament appeared at his right hand. Destructive chaotic force surged out from the Emperor armament as he swung it at Chanyang Qingyun's hand with lightning speed. The strike was fast, accurate, and vicious. It was a full-powered strike that Jianshan had been secretly accumulating power for a very long time. Chanyang Qingyun was surprised. He had never expected Jianshan to react so quickly. However, he was still a veteran, so a vast amount of saint force immediately surged out from his hand. His hand, that originally reached for Jianshan's space ring, changed direction and struck the Emperor armament from the side. Bang! With a heavy sound, the Emperor armament gently vibrated. Jianshan's attack had been cleverly nullified by Chanyang Qingyun. However, Jianshan's attack did not stop because of that. With a twist of his wrist, the Emperor armament danced in the air, cleverly nullifying the remaining force. Afterward, it turned into a black streak of light and stabbed toward Chanyang Qingyun with unbelievable speed. Chanyang Qingyun remained calm. He extended a finger and condensed tremendous amounts of world force into a single strand of energy, which collided with the tip of the Emperor armament. Following an explosion, the pavilion in the garden was torn apart. Violent energy shock waves shot out in all directions from the center of the battle, destroying the beautiful garden into a mess. Jianshan could not help but take 3 steps back, leaving behind 3 deep footprints in the ground. Chanyang Qingyun remained where he was without moving. "Your strength is indeed not weak outside, but it's still quite lacking if you want to fight me," Chanyang Qingyun coldly said. Jianshan gripped the Emperor armament tightly in his right hand as his presence became more and more powerful. Although the disparity in strength between him and Chanyang Qingyun was very large, he was not afraid. Leave behind the saint's fruit, and I'll let you leave, Changyang Qing Yun coldly said. He was determined to obtain the saint's fruit. Chapter 1172. The great elders of the Yuan and Qing branches all retreated a certain distance at the same time, expressing their stance. They did not want to get involved. At the same time, they stopped the clansmen who were rushing over through communication techniques. Qing Yun, you're an ancestor after all. Aren't you going a little too far by threatening a descendant like this? Changyang Zushao growled. He and Changyang Zhu Yinshao remained where they were and did not move. You're all senior members of the clan, so you know a few of the clan's rules. He asked for it. Changyang Qing Yun's face sunk, and his voice became icy cold. He had already reached great perfection as a holy emperor many years ago. Although he was only a step away from becoming a holy emperor, he had not touched upon that domain at all. He knew that it was impossible for him to reach emperor in his life, so he was determined to obtain the saint's fruit. Of course, we remember the clan's rules, but Xiang Tian is different from the other clansmen. He did not grow up in our protector clan. Instead, he only joined us recently from an external branch. At the same time, he's one of the great elders of Changyang Prefecture, so his status is extraordinary. He cannot be treated like an ordinary clansman. Coupled with Xiang Tian's outstanding abilities, I believe Xiang Tian should enjoy some special privileges, said Changyang Zushao. Changyang Zhu Yinshao also walked over. He stood before Jianshan and blocked Changyang Qingyun. He said, most importantly, Xiang Tian obtained the saint's fruit with the assistance of 3 powerful friends. On the other hand, our Changyang Prefecture did not contribute much, so I believe we have no right to take the saint's fruit from him. No one has ever broken the clan's rules in all these years. No matter how astonishing Xiang Tian's talent is, he's still a member of our Changyang Prefecture. He needs to follow the clan's rules. Changyang Qing Yun refused to back down. He was determined. Jianshan became angered when he heard that. He called out, if that's the case, Jianshan, will withdraw from Changyang Prefecture right now. From now on, your protector clan, Changyang Prefecture, has nothing to do with me, Jianshan. Changyang Qing Yun's gaze suddenly sharpened as he viciously stared at Jianshan. He growled, my Changyang Prefecture is one of the 10 protector clans of the Tian Yuan continent. Do you think you can leave just because you want to? You've already broken the rules of the clan with what you've said. I'll capture you right now and take you to the ancestral hall so that the disciplinary elders can judge you. With a flash, Changyang Qing Yun circled around Changyang Zhu Yinshao. Energy surged from his right hand, forming a huge web that shot toward Jianshan. A sliver of anger flashed through Changyang Zhu Yinshao's eyes. In that critical moment, he directly threw a punch at Changyang Qing Yun. Powerful saint force pulsed from his fist, causing the space that was much tougher than the outside world to ripple. Changyang Qing Yun remained composed. He gently swatted out with his left hand, easily nullifying the powerful saint force from Changyang Zhu Yinshao's fist. His right hand continued to envelop Jianshan with a web of energy. Jianshan's presence became extremely powerful as battle intent surged from him. His gaze was as sharp as a sword. He showed no fear at all as he faced the Holy Emperor at great perfection. His Emperor armament was wrapped in a layer of chaotic force as it stabbed toward Changyang Qing Yun with great speed. You overestimate yourself. Disdain appeared on Changyang Qing Yun's face. The web in his right hand split into 2. One of them wrapped around Jianshan's Emperor armament, while the other remained the same, continuing toward Jianshan. Right now, Jianshan's Emperor armament seemed to be wrapped in a layer of bandages. Even the light from the chaotic force had been drowned out. Jianshan did not panic at all. With a sudden jerk of his arm, the Emperor armament violently trembled as well. Slivers of black light broke through Changyang Qing Yun's energy suppression, and they became more and more powerful. The chaotic force on the Emperor armament quickly broke free from Changyang Qing Yun's restraints. At this moment, the other web had already descended above Jianshan's head. Just when Jianshan was about to be trapped, a golden light flashed from his forehead. It turned into a 3-meter-tall golden tower. The tower hovered in the air and shone with a golden light as it hovered above Jianshan's head. The tip of the tower blocked the energy web, preventing it from descending. The net of energy enveloped the pagoda, firmly trapping it. The Emperor armament finally broke free from its restraints after this delay. Its black light surged into the sky as a destructive presence radiated into the distance. Many experts in seclusion were alarmed. They all opened their eyes and emerged from seclusion. Swish! The sword tore through the air. Its powerful energy, which seemed to possess enough power to obliterate the world, left behind a thin, black crack in the space that was much tougher than the outside world. It stabbed toward Chanyang Qingyun with an unstoppable force. The sword moved so quickly that it was impossible to capture with the naked eye. All that could be seen was a flash of black light as the sword arrived before Chanyang Qingyun's forehead at an unbelievable speed. The space between the eyebrows was the most fatal spot for any expert. It was the location of their life because that was where their soul resided. Once the soul was damaged, even Saint Kings at great perfection would be fatally injured or even directly die. Jianshan directly stabbed his sword toward Chanyang Qingyun's forehead. He aimed for his opponent's vitals as soon as he struck, showing no mercy at all. Chanyang Qingyun's face sank. Heavy killing intent leaked out from his eyes. Just when the Emperor armament was only 3 inches away from his forehead, the space around Jianshan suddenly froze. His body remained in the posture of thrusting out the sword as he was firmly frozen by the frozen space. Even the Emperor armament that stabbed toward Chanyang Qingyun's forehead came to a halt, forcefully stopping 3 inches away from Jianshan's forehead. It was unable to advance any further. However, this situation only lasted for a few seconds before the frozen space was shattered by Jianshan's chaotic force. However, just when Jianshan recovered his mobility, Chanyang Qingyun had already arrived beside him. He yelled out, "You have committed an unforgivable crime for daring to kill a great elder. I, Chanyang Qingyun, represent the highest elder of the Chanyang Prefecture to punish you." Chanyang Qingyun directly sent a palm strike toward Jianshan. Energy surged from his hand, and, as he struck out, it seemed to envelop the entire region. It caused the space around Jianshan to become viscous, as if he had fallen into a swamp. Jianshan was stern. His eyes were cold. With a thought, the saint artifact immediately shrank to the size of a fist and emerged from a crack in the net. It flew over as a golden streak of light and blocked in front of Jianshan like a shield. Chapter 1173. Jianshan uncontrollably staggered back over 10 steps before he managed to nullify the powerful force. Just as he stabilized himself, Chanyang Qingyun's second palm strike aggressively shot toward him. He used his full strength again, showing no mercy at all. He locked down the space around Jianshan, trapping him there once again. The great perfection of the Holy Emperor was the apex of the Holy Emperor realm. He was only a step away from the Holy Emperor, so he was infinitely close to the level of a Holy Emperor. With his strength at the great perfection of the Holy Emperor realm, Chanyang Qingyun possessed an absolute advantage over Jianshan, who was only at the 7th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor realm. At this moment, Jianshan no longer had the time to break through the frozen space. He could only watch as Chanyang Qingyun's powerful palm strike rapidly approached him. Chaotic force surged within him as he pushed the defenses of his chaotic body to the limit. He planned on forcefully enduring the palm strike. At this moment, an old but upright figure suddenly appeared before Jianshan. He was the person with the highest status in the Zhu branch, Chanyang Zhu Shao. Energy surged from his body as tremendous world force coiled around him. Although his tremendous presence was not as great as Chanyang Qingyun's, it was not much weaker. He then struck out with a palm strike at Chanyang Qingyun with lightning speed with invisible world force, meeting Chanyang Qingyun's palm strike. Boom! With a great boom, terrifying ripples of energy wreaked havoc in the surroundings as a terrifying gust of wind. It caused the entire floating continent to violently tremble as the energy of the world surged. Chanyang Qingyun remained as still as a mountain. Standing where he was, Chanyang Zhu Shao gently trembled. The ground where he stood sank slightly. Chanyang Zushao, what are you doing? Chanyang Qingyun glared at Chanyang Zushao. Chanyang Zushao emotionlessly stared at Chanyang Qingyun. He said emotionlessly, Qingyun, why are you so harsh on a junior? Aren't you going a little too far? Moreover, Xiang Tian is still a great elder of our Chanyang prefecture. Great elder? Which great elder of our Chanyang prefecture doesn't think about the clan's development? He may be a great elder, but he's selfish. He doesn't care about the clan at all. What's the point of having a great elder like him? From now on, as the greatest elder of the Chanyang prefecture, I declare that Chanyang Zhu Xiangtian is no longer a great elder, Chanyang Qingyun coldly said. Removing a great elder requires the 7 of us to agree. Qingyun, you don't have the authority to do so alone, Chanyang Zushao said. There's no need for you to remove me. I, Jianshun, am no longer a member of your protector clan of Chanyang prefecture. From today onwards, I have nothing to do with your protector clan of Chanyang prefecture, Jianshun loudly declared after breaking free from the restraints of space. At this moment, a large number of clansmen from Chanyang prefecture had gathered in the distance. The disturbance from the battle in the garden had alarmed everyone in the inner clan. Many people hurried over from all directions and hovered in the air, observing the situation from very far away. They had all been stopped by the other great elders through communication techniques, so none of them dared to come over. Chanyang Qingyun's face was filled with killing intent. He made his way around Chanyang Zushao and headed straight for Jianshan. Qingyun, Xiangtian is a member of my Zhu branch. You can't bully him like this. Chanyang Zushao blocked Chanyang Qingyun and clashed with him several dozen times with lightning-like speed. Chanyang Qingyun became furious after being blocked time and time again. He yelled out, Chanyang Zushao, since you insist on protecting him, don't blame me for not showing you any mercy. Let me see just how much you've improved in the past few years. Chanyang Qingyun and Chanyang Zushao began an intense battle. They fought from the ground to the sky, and then from the sky to the mountains in the distance. Birds and beasts were alarmed as powerful ripples of energy caused the space there to violently tremble. Many cracks constantly expanded, healed, and ripped apart. Several mountains collapsed from their battle. I never thought that Zhu Zhao's strength had already reached the 9th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. He's about to reach great perfection. It won't be easy for Qingyun to defeat Zhu Zhao, murmured Chanyang Qingjuri. The clansmen from Chanyang prefecture all stared at the battle between Chanyang Qingyun and Chanyang Zushao in panic. None of them knew what was happening. Many of them felt uneasy when they saw the great elders of the clan fight so intensely. They all began to discuss among themselves. Juri, Yinfeng, the 2 of you help me capture the criminal of the clan. Chanyang Qingyun's voice rang out from afar. The clansmen who had no idea what was going on immediately fell into an uproar when they heard what Chanyang Qingyun had said. Various discussions rang out in all directions, but most of them were dissatisfied with Jianshan. Jianshan was so young that his actual age was not even a fraction of the age of many of them, yet he had managed to climb up to the position of great elder, surpassing all of them. This had already made many of the old people dissatisfied, but they did not dare to vent their dissatisfaction because of the suppression from the great elders. Yet now, Jianshan had caused Chanyang Zushao and Chanyang Qingyun to fight because he had violated the rules of the clan. This immediately made the people who were dissatisfied with Jianshan feel no fear at all. Various complaints rang out incessantly. Chanyang Qingjuri and Chanyang Qingyunfeng were all from the same branch. Without any hesitation, they immediately charged toward Jianshan after hearing what Chanyang Qingyun had said. Chanyang Zuyunshao snorted coldly and went up to receive them, blocking Chanyang Qingyunfeng. Yinshao, looks like you want to fight me as well. However, your strength may have increased, reaching the 5th heavenly layer, but you're still not my opponent. It's best if you don't interfere in this matter, just in case we end up hurting each other, said Chanyang Qingyunfeng. You've already come to bully a member of my Zhu branch in such an unbridled manner, yet you want me to not interfere? What a joke. Chanyang Zhu Yunxiao stood firm and did not waver at all. If that's the case, there's nothing more for me to say. Chanyang Qing Yunfeng's voice turned cold as he began to fight Chanyang Zhu Yunxiao. On the other side, Chanyang Qingjuri was also fighting against Jianshan. However, Chanyang Qingjuri was only at the 5th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor, so he was not Jianshan's opponent at all. After just a few exchanges, Jianshan had severed his left arm. He could not help but cry out from the pain. How dare you attack a great elder? This is unforgivable. Wuji, Zhenghua, the two of you, capture the traitor of the clan. Chanyang Qingyun, who was fighting against Chanyang Zhu Xiao, discovered the situation on the other side and called out in exasperation. He was furious inside. Chanyang Yuan Wuji and Chanyang Yuan Zhenghua hesitated for a while, but they still attacked Jianshan in the end. Chanyang Yuan Wuji was the strongest of the two, having reached the 8th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. Chanyang Yuan Zhenghua was the weakest, remaining at the 4th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. Jianshan's pressure immediately increased when the two people from the Yuan branch struck out together. He fell into a disadvantage very soon, especially in terms of strength. Jianshan found it rather difficult to deal with Chanyang Yuan Wuji, who had reached the 8th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. People of the Yuan and Qing branches, you've gone too far. Chanyang Zhu Yunxiao angrily roared at the sky as he fought against Chanyang Qing Yunfeng. A violent presence radiated from his body as his hair and clothes fluttered despite the lack of wind. The invisible world force in the surroundings rapidly gathered toward him. Chanyang Zhu Yunxiao raised his head and looked at the sky. He raised his right hand high above his head as he gave off a violent, domineering aura, as if he wanted to challenge the heavens. A ball of faint white light suddenly appeared on his fist and rapidly intensified. In the blink of an eye, it became a scorching ball of white light. It seemed like a miniature sun, illuminating the entire world. The Founding God's Fist. It's the Founding God's Fist. Chanyang Zhu Yunxiao, why? You're actually using the Founding God's Fist against us. Chanyang Qing Yunfeng paled in fright and immediately retreated. He quickly moved his hands through the air, using a secret technique to create layers of defenses in front of him. At the same time, Saint Force surged out from his body, condensing into a suit of armor. The expressions of Chanyang Qingyun and the two great elders from the Yuan branch changed slightly as well. They feared the Founding God's Fist very much. This was an extremely tough and ferocious fist technique created by a talented ancestor of the Zhu branch. It was an extremely powerful Saint-tier battle skill, and it had reached the peak of Saint-tier battle skills. It had touched on the edge of another domain. Chapter 1174. Yin Xiao, you're actually using the Founding God's Fist against a member of your own clan. Do you have any idea what you're doing right now? Chanyang Qingyun furiously bellowed out as he fought against Chanyang Zhu Xiao. However, his words were unable to stop Chanyang Zhu Yunxiao. The Founding God's Fist was a powerful battle skill that touched on the edge of another domain. Even with Chanyang Zhu Yunxiao's strength, he needed some time to charge it up. The surroundings suddenly began to churn. As the Founding God's Fist charged up, the abundant energy of the world and world force in the independent space of Chanyang Prefecture began to surge, causing a storm of energy to kick up. Fallen leaves were blown into the air as dust filled the air, causing the floating continent to gently tremble. The space around Chanyang Zhu Yunxiao violently trembled and violently twisted. Chanyang Zhu Yunxiao's body flickered in and out of existence, twisting like a curve from time to time. An extremely powerful energy had already condensed around his fist. Transcendence, impasse barrier. As Chanyang Zhu Yunxiao's opponent, Chanyang Qing Yunfeng bellowed out as well. He also used an ancient secret technique to control spatial force, creating a spatial barrier between him and Chanyang Zhu Yunxiao. It was as if he had separated the two of them into two different worlds. Suddenly, a tremendous pressure suddenly appeared. It was so powerful that even the saint rulers watching from afar could not help but tremble. Many of those below Saint Ruler directly collapsed to the ground, while some of the weaker people vomited blood. Just the pressure alone was enough to crush their organs, causing them to become heavily injured. The pressure was unprecedentedly powerful, much more powerful than Saint Tier battle skills. It was extremely rare on the Tian-Yuan continent, where only experts like the Holy Emperor could resist it. Chanyang Zhu Yunxiao bathed in a dazzling light, making him seem like a god who had descended to the mortal world. His might was inviolable. His fist moved, slowly striking toward Chanyang Qin Yunfeng. His fist did not strike out quickly. It could be said to be extremely slow, but as he struck out, it seemed to trigger some mysterious and powerful energy in the world. There was actually a deep rumble of thunder in the air. With one punch, the wind and clouds moved, and all laws fell silent. This punch seemed to have replaced the world, becoming the only thing in the world. It was the most dazzling focal point of the world. This punch seemed to carry all the power in the world. It transformed into a ferocious dragon that charged forward with an unstoppable momentum. This was the founding divine fist. It had already reached the peak of Saint Tier battle skills, and it had already touched the edge of another realm. It was about to break away from the level of Saint Tier battle skills. The fist collided with Chanyang Qin Yunfeng's spatial barrier first. This was because the spatial barrier he had set up using an ancient secret technique was actually unable to stop it at all. It was easily pierced through by the punch, causing the entire space to tremble violently. A part of the space had already shattered, turning into darkness. However, it quickly repaired itself. It shattered the spatial barrier. The founding divine fist did not slow down at all. It continued toward Chanyang Qin Yunfeng like a hot knife through butter. Chanyang Qin Yunfeng became extremely stern. He had already been locked onto by the founding divine fist. As a powerful battle skill that was about to surpass the Saint Tier, it was not easy to dodge. All he could do was forcefully endure it. There was no way for him to escape. The founding divine fist struck over with an earth-shaking momentum. It came in contact with the layers of defenses created by Chanyang Qin Yunfeng through a secret technique, destroying all obstructions and striking Chanyang Qin Yunfeng mercilessly. Spurt. Chanyang Qin Yunfeng immediately vomited blood. He was blown away, smashing through several mountains along the way. In the end, he sank into a mountain and remained motionless for quite some time. Chanyang Zuyin Xiao, I won't let you off easily for being so heavy-handed against a great elder of the clan. Chanyang Qin Yun furiously bellowed as his presence rapidly climbed. He began to use his full strength without holding back at all. He knocked Chanyang Zhu Xiao away with a single palm strike before flying toward Chanyang Zhu Yun Xiao as a streak of light. Chanyang Zhu Yun Xiao shone with an abnormally dazzling light. The might of the founding divine fist had yet to disperse after the strike. He stared at Chanyang Qin Yun in interest and showed no fear at all. He then threw a punch at Chanyang Qin Yun from afar. With a single punch, all laws fell silent. This punch seemed to have transformed into the only thing in the world, and it brought with it an inconceivable force. Chanyang Qin Yun remained emotionless as his gaze was cold. Although Chanyang Zhu Yunxiao's founding divine fist was about to surpass Saint Tier battle skills, it was still limited by his strength. It was not enough to pose a threat to him. Soul-crushing palm. Chanyang Qin Yun coldly snorted. He received the founding divine fist with a palm strike, and the pressure of the world descended. This was also a Saint Tier battle skill, except it was not as powerful as the founding divine fist. It had been used by Chanyang Qin Yun at great perfection in an instant. The two Saint Tier battle skills collided in the air and erupted with a great boom. Terrifying ripples of energy wreaked havoc in the surroundings, almost shattering the space there. The 18 divine halls in the sky became even more consolidated, stabilizing the surroundings. The founding divine fist and the soul-crushing palm were on par with each other. They canceled each other out and dispersed at the same time. Although the difference in strength between the two was just too great, the difference in battle skills could be completely made up for. Before Chanyang Zhu Yunxiao could recover, Chanyang Qin Yun arrived before him in a flash. He threw a palm strike at Changyang Zhu Yunxiao, passing through the eternal light from the founding divine fist and landing on his chest. Spurt. Blood sprayed from Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's mouth. His face immediately paled as he was blown far away by Changyang Qingyun's palm strike. He was heavily injured. Changyang Qingyun, the two of us are irreconcilable. Changyang Zhu Xiao was furious. He charged over from afar with bloodshot eyes and killing intent. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao was his great-grandson and the pride of the Zhu branch. Changyang Zhu Xiao's fury had reached its limit when he saw Changyang Qingyun injure Yunxiao right in front of him. Changyang Zhu Xiao's presence skyrocketed, reaching a peak very soon. He was about to use the founding divine fist. Changyang Qingyun glared at Changyang Zhu Xiao and yelled out, "Changyang Zhu Xiao, your Zhu branch has the founding divine fist, while my Qing branch has the spring wind and rain. If we really fight, we'll only drag down our clansmen. Do you want to become the eternal sinner of Changyang Prefecture?" Changyang Qingyunshin was filled with fear. He could ignore Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's founding divine fist, but he needed to take it seriously if Changyang Zhu Xiao used the same battle skill. The light in Changyang Zhu Xiao's eyes flickered. After a moment of hesitation, he gave up on the idea of using the founding divine fist. Chapter 1175. Changyang Yuan Zhenghua was not as powerful as Jianshun, but Changyang Yuan Wuji had reached the 8th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor, making him the 3rd strongest expert in Changyang Prefecture. His strength completely surpassed Jianshun's. Every single strike from him possessed enough power to split mountains, and he would use ancient secret techniques from time to time as well, exhausting Jianshun and forcing him into a disadvantageous position. Almost all of Jianshun's heavy wounds came from Changyang Yuan Wuji, but the toughness of his chaotic body granted him great vitality and battle prowess. Even though he was heavily injured, Jianshun's battle prowess did not decrease by much. However, even with that being the case, he was unable to last for very long. Bang! With a muffled sound, Changyang Yuan Wuji's palm strike landed on Jianshun's chest, knocking him far away. The palm strike was very powerful, sending Jianshun several thousand meters away. He only stopped after smashing through a mountain. His entire chest had caved in and several of his ribs had been broken. Jianshun gritted his teeth as chaotic force rapidly circulated through his body. He healed his wounds as quickly as possible. Even though he had already used his full strength, his rate of recovery was nowhere near as fast as his wounds. Jianshun glanced around and saw that Changyang Zhu Xiao and Changyang Qingyun were still fighting in the distance. Surging ripples of energy wreaked havoc in the surroundings, causing the mountains to tremble. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao had stopped moving after being blown away by Changyang Qingyun's palm strike. Jianshun's face became extremely sunken. He was at a complete disadvantage right now. He could fight a holy emperor at the 7th heavenly layer alone, but he was powerless against Changyang Yuan Wuji, who was at the 8th heavenly layer of the holy emperor. At the same time, Changyang Yuan Wuji was a great elder of a protector clan. He possessed many powerful battle skills and ancient secret techniques, so his battle prowess was incomparable to regular holy emperors outside. The independent space had been sealed up as well. It was impossible to open it without the corresponding technique, so he was trapped there and could not leave. Violent ripples of energy appeared up ahead as Changyang Yuan Wuji aggressively flew over from afar. He glared at Jianshun as if he was afraid that Jianshun would run away. Greed filled his eyes at all. Right now, Qingyun is being kept busy by Zhu Xiao, so this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me. As long as I get the saint's fruit, I'll consume it immediately, and they won't be able to do anything to me. They can only watch on the side. Ha ha! I'll be able to reach the level of Holy Emperor very soon and become the strongest. I'll become the strongest of the 10 protector clans. Changyang Yuan Wuji roared inside. He seemed to be able to see the moment when he became the Holy Emperor. He was tempted to roar at the sky as he suppressed his excitement and madness. However, this brat's talent is very great. He'll probably become a Saint Emperor himself in just a few years. He's a great threat to me. Since I've already offended him today, I might as well go all the way and kill him. Heavy killing intent immediately appeared in Changyang Yuan Wuji's eyes when he reached there. He wanted to take the saint's fruit as well as kill Jinshin. A silver-white spear completely condensed from energy appeared in Changyang Yuan Wuji's hand. As the spear condensed, a powerful pressure appeared in the surroundings, crushing down on Jinshin like a mountain. It made Jinshin's body sink as his movements became obstructed. This was the pressure from a Saint-tier battle skill. Changyang Yuan Wuji casually used it before shooting through the air as a white streak of light, shooting toward Jinshin with lightning-like speed. Jinshin was stern. With a thought, the Saint artifact immediately turned into a 10-meter-tall golden tower in front of him, blocking the Saint-tier battle skill for him. At the same time, there was a flash of golden light. A 3-meter-tall, extremely burly man silently appeared beside Jinshin. He seemed like a small giant. His skin was faintly golden, and he seemed to radiate with a golden glow. This person was Taita, who had always remained in the artifact space. Taita had received Jinshin's secret warning long ago, so he knew that the situation outside was very dangerous. As soon as he emerged from the artifact space, a dense layer of golden light revolved around him. He then called out, "Mysteries of war, fist of world, collapse." Thick golden light gathered on Taita's fist. At this moment, there was a strange power circulating on his fist, and then he punched the air in front of him. Hum! A strange hum rang out. Taita's punch actually produced an extremely strange sound, as if space itself was crying out in pain. The space there shook violently with Taita's punch, vaguely showing signs of being ripped apart. The 18 divine halls in the sky became even clearer than before. Every single one of them radiated with a strand of energy that fused with the space there, causing the space that was much tougher than the outside world to become even sturdier. It was like an indestructible prison. The shaking space stabilized very quickly. Taita's face immediately changed when he saw this. He said, "Jinshin, I can't break through the space here." "What?" Jinshin was surprised. He said, "Taita, didn't you say that your mysteries of war can break through all spatial restraints, allowing you to travel through other spaces and go wherever you want?" Taita scratched his head in a rather anxious manner. He said rather timidly, "That's what I heard. My fist of world can indeed break through all spatial restraints, but I never thought that this space would be so tough. Even my fist of world is useless. Looks like I'm still too weak. My comprehension of the fist of world isn't deep enough. God damn it." Jinshin cursed in his heart. Truly, plans could not keep up with changes. He had never thought that something like this would happen. At this moment, it was already dark outside. A full moon hung high in the sky, radiating with pure moonlight. A silver-white divine hall silently descended from outer space. In the end, it hovered above the space where the Protector clan, Changyang Prefecture, resided. Yu Yu stood gracefully on the roof of the divine hall in a white dress. She held the moon god scepter that Fairy Hao Yue had given her. Suddenly, Sima Yu Yu raised the moon god scepter up high. The gem embedded in the moon god scepter immediately emitted a dense moonlight. At the same time, the full moon in the sky suddenly shone brightly. It actually gave off an unprecedentedly powerful moonlight, as if it was resonating with the scepter in Yu Yu's hand. The two of them seemed to be resonating with each other from afar. "I never thought that you'd actually have helpers. But in my Protector clan, it's useless even if you invite a holy emperor at great perfection." Changyang Yuan Wuji sneered in Changyang Prefecture. The energy around him surged as he directly charged toward Jinshin. Taita's eyes turned cold. A golden axe appeared in his hand as he yelled out, "Mysteries of war, destruction." A supreme battle intent suddenly appeared. It could affect the minds of everyone present, instantly shattering the courage and morale of all the spectating people from Changyang Prefecture. Many people from Changyang Prefecture shivered under the impact of the battle intent. Their gazes toward Taita were filled with fear. At that moment, Taita seemed to have become an undefeatable war god in their eyes. Even saint rulers had lost the courage to fight before him. An extremely dazzling streak of golden light shot through the sky, striking toward Chanyang Yuan Wuji with a thunderous momentum as the supreme battle intent radiated from him. Chanyang Yuan Wuji became stunned. The battle intent that had suddenly appeared had affected him slightly, but he could completely suppress it with his strength, so he returned to normal very soon. He looked at the golden axe and wanted to dodge, but he discovered that his presence had been locked onto, making it impossible for him to dodge. He hurriedly used an ancient secret technique to block Tai Ta's attack, but the great force within the axe knocked Chanyang Yuan Wuji far away. What is this presence? In the distance, Chanyang Qingyun and Chanyang Zhu Xiao stopped fighting. They both stared at Tai Ta in surprise and doubt. The mysteries of war, destruction. Isn't this the powerful battle skill used by the war god of the 100 races, Aragis? The ancient records say that Rui Jin used the mysteries of war to shatter a small portion of the Tian Yuan continent with a single swing of his axe. Over 10 Holy Emperor experts died to the technique. Chanyang Qingyun blanked out as disbelief filled his face. Chanyang Zhu Xiao stared at Tai Ta from afar. He murmured, "He's covered in golden light, and he can even radiate with such a unique battle intent." Is he? This person is the war god of the 100 races. No wonder so many experts from the 100 races invaded our Tian Yuan continent. This has never happened before. So it's all related to the war god. Chanyang Qingyun suddenly exclaimed. Chanyang Qingyun suddenly cried out. He immediately guessed Tai Ta's identity and felt both surprise and fear. Even with his mental fortitude, he struggled to remain calm. The war god of the 100 races was just far too renowned, so great that even Holy Emperor experts would pale when they heard his name. After all, he was a sovereign who had surpassed the Holy Emperor's level of cultivation, who knew just how many Holy Emperor experts had died to his hands in ancient times. Only experts at the same level of cultivation could fight him. However, Chanyang Qingyun could tell that Tai Ta was not powerful very soon, so he immediately calmed down. Heavy killing intent began to radiate from him without any concealment. He said, Zhu Xiao, the war god of the 100 races has appeared again. Although you and I did not take part in the matters of the ancient times, we still understand it very well from the records that have been passed down. You should know what to do now. Chanyang Zhu Xiao furrowed his brows tightly as he stared at Tai Ta. The light in his eyes flickered. Kill the war god of the 100 races immediately before he fully matures and get rid of any future problems. Otherwise, our Tian Yuan continent will be doomed. The tragedy of the ancient times will repeat itself, and this time, we don't have an expert like Mo Tianyin to stop him. Zhu Xiao, let's put aside our disagreements from before and kill the war god together, Chanyang Qingyun coldly said. With that, he charged toward Tai Ta first. Boom! Chapter 1176. Chanyang Qingyun's charge toward Tai Ta also came to a halt with a sudden sound. He stared at the sky in some shock as an indescribable shock appeared on his face. The sound alarmed the entire Chanyang prefecture, whether it was the people from the inner or outer regions. At that moment, all of them raised their heads to look at the sky. Many people had no idea what was happening. All they saw was that the space in the sky violently shook and distorted. It was vaguely possible to see droplets of bright and gentle white light, as if they were trying their best to tear through space and enter. The 18 divine hall phantoms in the surroundings completely manifested at this moment. They turned into 18 true divine halls that hovered in the surroundings, stabilizing the space. Vast and boundless energy surged out of each divine hall, mixed with the profound truths of space. This is an invasion. 18 elders enter the divine halls and stabilize this space. We can't let the enemy invade Chanyang Prefecture, Chanyang Qingyun ordered in a solemn voice. Chanyang Qingyun ordered with a sunken face. He was extremely stern. The internal strife of the Chanyang clan had yet to subside, yet the enemy had already invaded. If they could not stop them, the Chanyang clan would definitely pay a heavy price. 18 elders immediately charged into the sky at the same time from the crowd. They each flew toward a divine hall in an attempt to enter the divine halls and unleash the full power of the formations. However, just when the 18 of them had reached the air, the space in Chanyang Prefecture violently shook again. The space in the sky was ripped open and a large swathe of bright moonlight filled the sky, illuminating the entire Chanyang Prefecture. It dyed Chanyang Prefecture into a silvery white world. Enter the divine halls. Someone called out from the sky. The 18 elders immediately stopped hesitating. They ignored the phenomenon in the sky and entered the divine halls as quickly as they could. Immediately, every single divine hall began to shine with extremely dazzling light. The divine halls formed a great formation, radiating with even more powerful energy and the truths of space to stabilize the region. At the same time, the spatial crack in the sky rapidly closed up as well. At this moment, a huge divine hall that shone with a silvery white light descended from the sky. It just happened to be stuck in the spatial crack, preventing it from closing up. Isn't that Fairy Haoyue's bright moon divine hall? Chanyang Qing Yun cried out in surprise. It's actually the bright moon divine hall. Chanyang Zhu Xiao also stared at the divine hall in the sky in surprise. For a moment, Chanyang Yuan Wuji had forgotten about Jianshen and Tai Ta. He stared at the divine hall in a daze. He had not returned to his senses at all. At this time, the tightly shut door of the bright moon divine hall suddenly opened. Dressed in a long white dress and holding the moon god scepter, Sima Yu appeared at the door. A hazy ray of moonlight shone down from the beam of the door, forming a light screen that protected Sima Yu. Yu's alluring face was filled with worry. Her face was filled with undisguised anxiety. She stood in the divine hall with the moon god's scepter in her hand as she constantly glanced around. She found Jianshen very soon, but when she saw that Jianshen was covered in wounds and blood, her heart shattered. Tears began to flow uncontrollably. Jianshen! Yu produced a heart-wrenching cry. She wanted to fly down to save Jianshen regardless of the consequences, but she was stopped by the barrier of light. She was unable to take a single step out of the divine hall. Jianshen discovered Yu as well. He immediately became stunned. He had never thought that Yu would actually find him at a time like this. Jianshen, come up quick! Yu cried out in a panic with tears in her eyes. Jianshen glanced at Yu with extremely mixed feelings. He wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth with his sleeve, and with a thought, the saint artifact immediately flew into his hand. He then turned around and flew toward a mountain in the distance with the saint artifact. Very soon, Jianshen flew over with the heavily injured Chanyang Zhuyanxiao. He called out to Tai Ta, and the two of them flew toward the divine hall in the sky. Don't even think about leaving so easily. Chanyang Qing Yun roared out. He could not let go of Jianshen's saint's fruit or Tai Ta's identity as the war god. A terrifying pressure suddenly appeared. Chanyang Qing Yun immediately used a saint-tier battle skill with his strength at great perfection as a holy emperor in an attempt to keep Jianshen and Tai Ta behind. Yu's gaze toward Chanyang Qing Yun was filled with intense hatred. She extended the scepter and a fist-thick strand of moonlight shot out from the gem on the scepter, shooting toward Chanyang Qing Yun at an unbelievable speed. Chanyang Qing Yun had just finished charging his saint-tier battle skill. But before he could use it, he sensed the strand of moonlight in the sky. As a result, he immediately changed the direction of the battle skill toward Jianshen and Tai Ta. With a boom, Chanyang Qing Yun's saint-tier battle skill was actually shattered by the inconspicuous strand of moonlight. The fist-thick strand of moonlight continued toward Chanyang Qing Yun without slowing down at all. Boom! The moonlight struck Chanyang Qing Yun's chest, causing him to vomit a large mouthful of blood. He struggled to maintain his levitation in the air, so he directly fell out of the sky. The Holy Emperor. This is the Holy Emperor's power. Chanyang Qing Yun regained control of his body very quickly. He hovered in the air as he stared at Yu, who stood at the entrance of the divine hall with a pale face. His face was filled with shock and disbelief. Jianxin had already approached the Divine Hall with the heavily injured Chanyang, Zhu Yunxiao, and Tai Ta. They passed through the barrier of light without any obstructions and entered the Divine Hall. Yu Yu finally calmed down when she saw that Jianxin had finally entered the Divine Hall. She glared at the people below before turning around and disappearing through the door. Bang! The door of the Divine Hall closed once again, and the huge Divine Hall began to gently tremble. Strands of pure moonlight force radiated from the Divine Hall, widening the closed spatial crack in an attempt to leave. Chapter 1177. In the forbidden grounds of the back mountains of Chanyang Prefecture, the formation had already been ripped open. A huge sword slowly rose into the air as it shone with a dazzling light. It radiated with a supreme sword chi that was enough to make the world tremble. Around a dozen saint ruler old men sat below the sword. All of them were pale and exhausted. They had used a secret technique to awaken the Emperor armament, so all of them were extremely exhausted. Fantastic! The Emperor armament has finally been awakened. I like to see how the bright Moon Divine Hall can retreat now. Chanyang Qingyun was overjoyed. It's the Emperor armament of the clan. Fantastic! The Emperor armament has finally appeared. The Emperor armament of our protector clan is unimaginably powerful. Is there anyone in the world who can contend against the Emperor armament? The invading Divine Hall is nothing before the Emperor armament. Chanyang Prefecture immediately fell into an uproar with the appearance of the Emperor armament. Many of the core members of Chanyang Prefecture knew about the legends of the Emperor armament, so they obviously worshipped it blindly. They believed that the Emperor armament of the Protector clan was the greatest god artifact in the world. Suddenly, the Emperor armament gently trembled, and a sword chi much more powerful than before shot out. With that tremble, many fine cracks immediately appeared in the space of Chanyang Prefecture that was much more stable than the outside world. The Emperor armament turned into a resplendent streak of light and stabbed toward the bright Moon Divine Hall with unbelievable speed. In just a single moment, it had closed in on the bright Moon Divine Hall, as if it had teleported. Boom! With a deafening boom, the Emperor armament struck the bright Moon Divine Hall with lightning-like speed. The great shockwave from the collision was so great that many people temporarily lost their hearing. Their heads buzzed as terrifying ripples of energy wreaked havoc in the sky like a violent storm. The floating piece of land in the center of Chanyang Prefecture shook violently from the shockwave. Many buildings collapsed, and the surroundings were reduced to a mess. However, no one paid any attention to the destroyed buildings at this moment. Everyone stared at the Emperor armament and the bright Moon Divine Hall in the sky. The bright Moon Divine Hall continued to hover steadily in the sky. Its pure white and majestic structure was not damaged at all. Not even a single mark could be seen on it. The bright Moon Divine Hall was actually unscathed after receiving an attack from the Emperor armament. This is impossible. Chanyang Qingyun stared at the scene in the sky in shock. Disbelief filled his face. He was unable to accept the reality before him. Chanyang Zhu Xiao became stunned as well. He murmured, "The Emperor armament may have been awakened through a secret technique, so it's unable to unleash its full power without anyone controlling it, but it's still enough to easily destroy any Divine Hall. How can the bright Moon Divine Hall remain unscathed after receiving an attack from the Emperor armament? Even if it's forged from special materials from the moon, it's impossible for it to be so tough." Chanyang Qingyun and Chanyang Zhu Xiao were not the only ones who were stunned. All the clansmen in Chanyang Prefecture who knew about the might of the Emperor armament were stunned by the unbelievable scene before them. Thrum! The Emperor armament in the sky produced a clear thrum before continuing toward the bright Moon Divine Hall with great power. With a boom, the result was the same as before. The bright Moon Divine Hall was completely unscathed after receiving the attack from the Emperor armament. The Emperor armament of the Protector clans was unable to leave a single mark on the pure white Divine Hall. The bright Moon Divine Hall was enveloped by a layer of pure moonlight. The pure and powerful moonlight force slowly expanded the cracks in the surroundings before slowly rising into the air. It completely ignored the Emperor armament. The war god of the 100 races is in the bright moon divine hall. We can't let the bright moon divine hall leave. Great elders, we need to control the emperor armament, or once the war god leaves, the consequences will be unthinkable, Changyang Qing Yin called out. Right now, the emperor armament had only been awakened to attack on its own, so the power it could unleash was limited without anyone controlling it. It was nowhere near as powerful as when it was controlled by someone. Other than Changyang Zhu Xiao, the other great elders of Changyang Prefecture all charged toward the emperor armament. Even Changyang Qing Yinfeng, who had been heavily injured by Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's founding god's fist, joined in as well. The Bright Moon Divine Hall had left the independent space of Changyang Prefecture and was in the outside world. The spatial crack had finally closed up completely, hiding the people of Changyang Prefecture in another space. However, in the next moment, the world gate of Changyang Prefecture swung wide open. The 5 great elders aggressively flew out with the emperor armament, directly flying toward the Bright Moon Divine Hall. Under the control of the 5 of them, the emperor armament radiated with an even greater presence than before. The door to the Bright Moon Divine Hall swung open once again, and Yu Yu appeared with the moon god scepter. Her face was filled with fury as she aimed the scepter at the incoming emperor armament. Immediately, silver-white moonlight force surged out. Chapter 1178. Fairy Hao Yue appeared to stop Yu Yu's impulsive actions. Afterward, an invisible force surged out of the divine hall, enveloping Yu Yu as she disappeared through the main entrance. The doors of the divine hall closed once again. The control of the Bright Moon Divine Hall was still in Fairy Hao Yue's hands. Yu Yu had only obtained a portion of the divine hall's power through Fairy Hao Yue's special permission. Yu Yu was still unable to control the divine hall completely. Up ahead, the emperor armament radiated with a surging presence under the control of the 5 great elders of Changyang Prefecture. It aggressively stabbed toward the divine hall. The space outside was nowhere near as tough as the space within the Protector clan. Wherever the emperor armament passed by, space would be ripped apart like paper, creating a huge, black chasm in the air. At this moment, a golden sword chi over 10 meters long shot over from behind. The sword chi was like a streak of light, shining with a dazzling and resplendent light. It dyed the pitch-black sky into a golden world. A huge phoenix completely condensed from white flames soared beside the golden sword chi. With crisp phoenix cries, it flew alongside the golden sword chi, passing through the Bright Moon Divine Hall with lightning-like speed to receive the emperor armament of the Changyang clan. Boom! The golden sword chi and the divine phoenix condensed from white flames violently collided with the emperor armament. An extremely powerful ripple of energy erupted, causing the space in a radius of 100 meters to collapse. It was plunged into eternal darkness. The violent ripple of energy wreaked havoc downwards, causing countless mountains to collapse. The ground violently shook as huge cracks appeared, extending to a range of 1,000 kilometers. Fortunately, the Changyang Prefecture resided in an ancient mountain range that was sparsely populated. Only a few magical beasts lived there, and very few people set foot there. Otherwise, just the ripple of energy from the clash would have been enough to flatten a large city, turning it into hell. The emperor armament of Changyang Prefecture was blocked. The powerful ripple of energy turned into a storm that struck the emperor armament and the 5 great elders controlling it. It slowed down their charge and forcefully suppressed it. The golden sword chi and the phoenix that had collided with the emperor armament dispersed as well. They were replaced by a shining sword and a fire-red hairpin with extremely delicate craftsmanship. The presence of origin energy. It's an origin energy weapon that contains origin energy. The 5 great elders' expressions changed slightly as they furrowed their brows. It's the 3 powerful magical beasts. I never thought that they would actually make it here at such a crucial moment, Changyang Yinfeng said with a heavy voice. Changyang Qing Yinfeng growled. His face was extremely ugly. All of them feared the three of them very much because they were powerful people that even Saint Emperors could not deal with. A golden and red streak of light shot through the pitch-black sky like a comet. They hurried over from afar with extreme speed. They were still on the horizon a moment ago, but they had arrived in front of the bright moon divine hall in the next moment, facing the 5 great elders. They were Ruijin and Honglian. The miniature world of the Protector clan really is mysterious. It can actually cut off all presences and senses, making it impossible for my Dragon clan's secret technique to find them. If it weren't for the fact that the battle that had just erupted had alarmed us, we probably wouldn't have been able to find this place. Ruijin gripped the sacred dragon's sword as he emotionlessly stared at the 5 of them. His eyes were cold. The scorching godfire hairpin returned to Honglian's hand as well. Honglian played around with the origin energy weapon in her hand as she glanced at the bright moon divine hall behind her. She said, "The temptation of the saint's fruit is indeed enough to drive people crazy. Looks like they've already chosen to become enemies with Jinshan for the fruit. This is an internal matter of our Protector clan, so I hope you won't interfere. You may have origin energy weapons, but the Emperor armament left behind by our ancestor is far more powerful than you can imagine," Changyang Qingyun sternly said. He was unwilling to provoke Ruijin's group so easily. Ruijin sneered. "Then I wonder if your Protector clan's Emperor armament is more powerful, or if my Dragon clan Sacred Dragon sword is more powerful. There's also the scorching Godfire hairpin of my Phoenix clan," Honglian added. The two of them showed no fear at all before the Emperor armament. "Do you really plan on interfering with other people's business?" Changyang Qingyun's face paled. The Emperor armament of the Protector clan was very powerful, but controlling it was just far too difficult. If they could only control it for a short period of time, they would be fine. However, if they controlled it for too long, they would suffer a backlash from the Emperor armament. The price was just far too great. At this moment, another black figure flew over from afar. He arrived before Ruijin and Honglian and stood beside them. He was the black-robed Blackfish. Blackfish seemed to be in a very bad condition right now. Blood constantly flowed from the corner of his mouth, and the black, poisonous blood had already covered his chest. His skin had become completely black, and the poison within him had become even more severe. However, Blackfish's presence did not weaken at all. He stood there aggressively with his machete in hand. His gaze was sharp as battle intent surged from him. He seemed like he would clash with his weapon at any moment. Suddenly, Changyang Qingyun and the others gently trembled. They had been controlling the Emperor armament for quite some time now, so the supreme power of the Emperor armament was slowly beginning to backfire. Changyang Qingyun coldly stared at the bright moon divine hall for a while. He knew that if this stalemate continued, they would be the ones to suffer. After a moment of hesitation, he finally made up his mind. He reluctantly gave the order to retreat. "Let's go back." The world gate to Chanyang Prefecture opened once again. Changyang Qingyun and the 5 great elders returned to the clan with the Emperor armament. At the same time, the bright moon divine hall shot off as a silver-white streak of light, vanishing in the blink of an eye. Ruijin, Honglian, and Blackfish followed closely behind. Jessen Kingdom, Lore City. The thick veil of night enveloped the entire city. A bright moon hung high in the sky, casting its hazy moonlight onto the earth. Vaguely, one could see groups of armored soldiers silently patrolling the deathly stillness of Lore City, silently guarding the peace of Lore City. In the Chanyang Prefecture of Lore City, there were only a few lanterns that silently emitted their dazzling light. Group after group of burly men moved through various parts of Chanyang Prefecture in high spirits. Every single one of them had extremely sharp gazes. Their bright eyes would always sweep past the various dark corners of Chanyang Prefecture. They did not feel tired at all. These people were the guards of Chanyang Prefecture. The current Chanyang Prefecture was no longer the same as before. Even the guards were much stronger than before. There were plenty of Earth Saint Masters, and there were even quite a few Heaven Saint Masters. In the dead of night, most people were still immersed in their sweet dreams. However, at this moment, the surroundings suddenly became abnormally bright. The darkness that had enveloped the entire city completely receded at that moment. The entire city was illuminated in a single moment. The sudden change alarmed all the patrolling guards and the guards of Chanyang Prefecture. All of them instinctively raised their heads to look at the sky. They saw a silver-white divine hall slowly descend from the sky with bright moonlight. In the end, it stopped 100 meters above Chanyang Prefecture. "What's that? Go inform the city lord." The guards on night patrol saw this scene from afar and were all stunned. They immediately rushed towards the city lord's mansion. Chapter 1179. The silent Chanyang Prefecture became brightly lit in a single moment. Figures flickered everywhere as all the guards in Chanyang Prefecture surged out of their rooms as soon as possible. Although many of them had been roused from their sleep, they did not seem to be in their sleep at all. They were brimming with energy and their gazes were sharp. Only 3 seconds had passed since the drums had sounded, yet several hundred figures suddenly appeared in the silent Chanyang Prefecture. Many guards radiated with powerful presences as they gathered in the front courtyard of Chanyang Prefecture. Before they could even ask what had happened, they all sensed the extremely bright moonlight shining down from the sky. They immediately raised their heads and became momentarily stunned when they saw what was in the sky. A huge divine hall, surrounded by a dense layer of moonlight, hovered 100 meters above the Chanyang clan. It completely obscured the sky above. "What's going on?" A heavy and dignified voice rang out. Chanyang Ba walked out of his room in luxurious robes. He seemed even more composed than before. However, as soon as he stepped out of the door, Chanyang Ba discovered what was in the sky through the moonlight. He became stunned as well. Soon after, the various important members and high-ranking members of Chanyang Prefecture were alarmed. They all emerged from their rooms and stared at the divine hall in the sky in surprise and doubt. This seems to be the bright moon divine hall that you were mentioned." Chanyang Ba stared at the divine hall as he softly murmured. He had known that Yu had obtained the divine hall long ago, but he had never seen it with his own eyes. At this moment, the doors to the divine hall opened. Jianchen flew out of the divine hall with the heavily injured Chanyang Zhu Yunxiao on his back. Tai Ta and Yu followed closely behind Jianchen with a moon god scepter. Xiang'er, its fourth young master. As soon as Jianchen landed on the ground, he was immediately recognized by the crowd. First, there were low cries of surprise and surprise. Then, all the guards around him knelt down on one knee at the same time. Each and every one of them had a look of excitement and worship on their faces as they shouted, "We pay our respects to the fourth young master." In the blink of an eye, the surroundings were filled with kneeling people. Only a few of Jianchen's elders remained standing. Chanyang Ba quickly walked over. Seeing Jianchen covered in blood, he was both shocked and angry. He didn't have time to exchange pleasantries and directly asked, "Xiang'er, what happened to you? Why did you suffer so much? Who hurt you?" Chanyang Ba's tone was full of concern, mixed with a little worry. Even with Jianchen's current strength, he had still ended up in such a horrible state. Chanyang Ba really had no idea just what kind of powerful enemy his genius son had encountered outside. "Xiang'er," a sobbing voice rang out. Bai Yuntian quickly walked over gracefully. She glanced past the various wounds on Jianchen's body and could not help but tremble. As a mother, her heart had almost shattered when she saw her precious son in such a miserable state. Great-grandfather Yunxiao, W.W. Xiang'er. How did great-grandfather Yunxiao end up like this? He's a great elder of a protector clan. Just who on the Tian Yuan continent would be bold enough to injure a great elder like him? "Xiang'er, what happened?" Chanyang Ba paled in fright as he hurriedly asked. "Father, mother, let's talk about this tomorrow. I'll take great-grandfather Yunxiao to heal first." Jianchen's heart was rather heavy. With that, he carried the still unconscious Chanyang Zhu Yunxiao back to his residence. Yu and Tai Ta left with Jianchen, leaving Chanyang Ba and the others standing there with heavy hearts. Aside from the footsteps of Jianchen and the others, there was no other sound. The atmosphere had become extremely heavy. Before long, Rui Jin, Blackfish, and Honglian returned to Chanyang Prefecture as well. Without saying anything, They all returned to their own residences. The three of them possessed extremely great statuses in Chanyang Prefecture, so they all had residences of their own. Yu did not take back the bright Moon Divine Hall. It continued to hover 100 meters above Chanyang Prefecture, just in case something unexpected happened. Yu had become especially vigilant as well. She was afraid that the experts of the Protector clans would attack again, so she used the bright Moon Divine Hall to protect Chanyang Prefecture. This night was a heavy one for Chanyang Prefecture and Lore City. Everything that had happened to Jinshin had made everyone's hearts heavy. However, this night was a sleepless one for Lore City. The descent of the Divine Hall had shaken up the entire city very quickly. The deathly silent city quickly became bustling. Even the city lord had personally hurried over from his estate to visit Chanyang Prefecture, but he was stopped outside. Early in the morning, in a mountain range hundreds of thousands of kilometers away, a simple wooden house stood silently in a small valley with an elegant environment. It gave off a desolate aura of time. This was a small mountain village that was cut off from the rest of the world. The scenery was beautiful, and the energy of the world was extremely abundant. It had even formed a thin layer of mist in the sky. Various herbs and extremely precious heavenly resources were planted in the surroundings of the mountain village. 1,000-year herbs could be seen everywhere, and 100-year herbs were innumerable. The mountain village was not small. There were several hundred wooden huts and pavilions of various sizes arranged in a circular pattern, but not a single person could be seen. The entire mountain village was deathly silent. In the very center of the mountain village was a hall completely constructed from 10,000-year-old ironwood. Although it was ancient and antiquated, it was filled with an inviolable dignity. There were only a few people sitting in the hall. Among them, the most eye-catching person was a woman wearing a green muslin dress. The woman held a zither in her arms, and her face was covered with a veil. Although her face couldn't be seen clearly, it wasn't difficult to guess her peerless beauty just from her temperament. Opposite her sat 3 old men with sword-like eyebrows. They had extraordinary presences, and the old man in the middle held a sealed brocade box in his hands. Esteemed heavenly enchantress, the heaven's heart lotus you gave us has been successfully refined into a pill with mild medicinal properties. Although this pill is refined from a 10,000-year-old heavenly treasure, even if it is consumed by a normal person, they will be fine. There is no need to worry about the medicinal effects being too strong and exploding. The old man with the brocade box handed it to the heavenly enchantress. His tone was filled with respect and fear. The heavenly enchantress accepted the brocade box and opened it. She saw a thumb-sized mixed yuan pill lying inside silently. It was surrounded by a layer of mist, giving off a heavy fragrance. A sliver of light finally appeared in the heavenly enchantress' indifferent eyes when she saw the pill. She said, "The ancient medicine village really lives up to its name. You've actually managed to refine a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource in such a short amount of time." The ancient medicine village was an ancient organization that had existed for over 100,000 years. It was a first-rate ancient clan that relied on alchemy for a living and medicine for cultivation. They walked an extremely different path of cultivation. Their attainments in alchemy had reached perfection long ago. They had reached the pinnacle of alchemy. However, they had remained in seclusion for many years, so they did not have much of a reputation. Even among the ancient clans, there were not many people who knew about the ancient medicine village. Esteemed heavenly enchantress, we've already fulfilled your request. May I ask how our grand elder's injuries are? An old man asked carefully. He was extremely fearful of the woman before him. The heavenly enchantress stowed the brocade box away and said emotionlessly, "Fortunately, your grand elder's cultivation deviation is not too severe. I've already healed the wounds to his soul with the soothing melody. He'll wake up in 3 days, and he'll make a full recovery after that." The 3 old men rejoiced when they heard that. They all thanked her. "Thank you for saving us, esteemed heavenly enchantress. We will never forget your kindness." The heavenly enchantress left the ancient medicine village with the heaven's heart lotus that had been refined into a pill. After she left, the three elders of the ancient medicine village immediately let out a long sigh of relief. When they recalled the scene when the heavenly enchantress first came to the ancient medicine village, the three of them still felt lingering fear. Just who is this heavenly enchantress? She's actually so terrifying. With just a flick of her finger, she made everyone in the village fall into a deep sleep. Even saint rulers were unable to escape. Fortunately, she doesn't have any enmity towards us. Otherwise, with the strength she displayed, it would be a piece of cake for her to wipe out our village. Her music is just too terrifying. It affects the soul. Even with the strength of the Holy Emperor, we can't withstand 3 notes from her. Just what level of cultivation does she have to be so powerful? Chapter 1180. The heavenly enchantress did not return to Three Saint Island immediately after leaving the village. Instead, she ripped open a space gate and arrived in the City of God, the capital of one of the 3 great empires on the continent, the Holy Emperor's Empire. As one of the 7 capital cities of the continent, the prosperity of the City of God could not be doubted. The streets and alleys were filled with people. It was bustling with activity. Countless experts had gathered there as well. In the center of the City of God, a huge, majestic castle lay there like a slumbering beast. A large number of white-robed radiant Saint Masters with various badges on their chests moved in and out of the castle. This was the headquarters of the Radiant Saint Master Union, the most sacred place in the hearts of all Radiant Saint Masters on the continent. This was because basically all the Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters on the continent were gathered there. At this moment, the heavenly enchantress silently appeared there with her zither and a veil covering her face. She hovered 100 meters in the air as she coldly stared at the aged castle before her with her enchanting eyes. Afterward, a powerful presence radiated from her, flooding the surroundings and enveloping the headquarters. All the experts in the Union were alarmed. Figures flickered outside the castle as several saint rulers arrived as soon as possible. They all glared at the heavenly enchantress. Afterward, over a dozen balls of white light flew out from the castle. They were all radiant Saint Masters in white robes with blue and violet badges on their chests. At the very front was the president and grand elder of the Union. Behind them were several Class 7 and 6 Radiant Saint Masters. The president of the Radiant Saint Master Union stared at the heavenly enchantress with shining eyes. When he saw who it was, he immediately became surprised. He said in surprise, "Mu-er, it's actually you." The heavenly enchantress looked at the president's old face, and her cold gaze immediately became rather gentle. There was even a sliver of respect in her eyes. "Greetings to the president." The heavenly enchantress nodded slightly with her zither. She actually took the initiative to bow to the president. The president gently smiled. He stared at the heavenly enchantress like a senior looking at a junior and said, "Mu-er, this is the first time you've come to our union after so many years. Please come in." The saint rulers immediately relaxed when they heard the president's words. Even their gazes toward the heavenly enchantress were no longer filled with hostility. Instead, they studied her in amazement and admiration. Although her face was covered by a veil, it was unable to hide the heavenly enchantress beauty. Just by standing there, she gave off an otherworldly presence, as if she was a goddess. "Esteemed President, I've taken the liberty of visiting the Union this time because I hope that the Class 7 Radiant Saint Master of your Union can assist me with something," said the heavenly enchantress. "Shangguan Mu, your father is a good friend of our Radiant Saint Master Union. As long as it's within our ability, we'll definitely do our best to help you. May I ask what you need our help with?" asked the Grand Elder. The heavenly enchantress' eyes immediately turned cold when she heard the word father. She said, "I'm only asking for your assistance this time. It has nothing to do with Hao Wu. Your union's relationship with him has nothing to do with me." Sigh. The president gently sighed. "Mu-er, it's already been so many years. Have you still not forgiven your father?" "Don't mention that person to me," the heavenly enchantress coldly replied. Uncontainable anger radiated from her. The president and grand elder looked at each other, and shook their heads helplessly. They sighed inside. From the heavenly enchantress reaction, they could tell that her hatred for her father was still extremely deep. A while later, the heavenly enchantress calmed down. President, I want to take a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master to 3 Saint Island. The president of the Radiant Saint Master Union remained silent for a while before deeply gazing at the heavenly enchantress. He said, something big has happened on the Tianyuan continent 2 days ago. Many Saint Kings have been heavily injured, so the Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters of our Union have been invited by the various ancient clans and protector clans to heal. Only 3 of us remain in the Union right now. Yet you want to take a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master to 3 Saint Island, which is so far away from the Tianyuan continent. When we're in such a dire situation, you've really troubled us. Of course, your father is a good friend of our Union. If your father personally comes, we'll definitely agree to your request without any hesitation. Esteemed President, you saved my life in the past, and I am extremely grateful for that. However, I must take a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master back to 3 Saint Island today, no matter what. I hope the President can agree, the heavenly enchantress sincerely said. She was doing all of this for Xiao Bao. The energy hidden within a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource was just too tremendous. Although the Heaven's Heart Lotus had been refined into a pill with mild effects, Xiao Bao was still young after all. She did not dare to take the risk, so she needed to come up with a perfect plan to prevent any accident from happening when Xiao Bao consumed the Heaven's Heart Lotus. A hunchbacked figure flew out of the castle. He was an old man with a face covered in wrinkles. He wore plain clothes and seemed like nothing special, but he was the only Holy Emperor expert in the Union. Shangguan Mu, it's best if you go back and get your father. Otherwise, it's impossible for you to get a respected Class 7 Radiant Saint Master to go to 3 Saint Island with you. The hunchbacked old man said powerlessly. The heavenly enchantress stared at the old man without blinking. Her voice became rather cold as well. Elder Jia, if I insist on taking a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master away, no one in the Union can stop me. However, the President once saved my life, so I don't want to make a fuss like this. Chapter 1181. The heavenly enchantress could not help but smile in disdain when she heard how confident Elder Jia was. She said, Elder Jia, I wonder if you're willing to try and see if my zither can threaten a supreme expert like the Holy Emperor. The heavenly enchantress was only grateful to the president of the Radiant Saint Master Union. Even though Elder Jia possessed a great status in the Union, he did not receive any respect from the heavenly enchantress. Elder Jia flew forward, and his entire aura suddenly underwent a tremendous change. At this moment, his originally hunchbacked body suddenly became tall and straight, and a strong sense of self-confidence flowed out from his body. The plain clothes on his body also fluttered in the absence of wind, making him look majestic. Elder Jia crossed his arms and stood proudly in the void. His pair of old eyes shot out a bright light. Compared to the previous ordinary-looking old man, he was like a completely different person. Shangguan Mu, make your move. Let old man see how powerful your demonic zither sound is. He did not see through the heavenly enchantress' strength, but he had heard of her legends, so he still treated her as a hermit saint ruler. Furthermore, at this moment, from the Guqin Saint, although the heavenly enchantress's aura was powerful, it was only at the level of a saint ruler. This was not enough to enter the eyes of Elder Jia, who was at the 4th heaven of the Holy Emperor. Elder Jia, I'm sorry for offending you. The heavenly enchantress spoke with a slightly cold tone. She gently placed her slender fingers on the strings of the zither and plucked a string with one of her slender fingers. Ding! A crisp sound of a zither rang out. The sound of the zither didn't travel very far. It only spread out for a distance of 100 meters before dissipating into thin air. The president, grand elder, and the group of saint rulers behind them all focused. They were on guard against the heavenly enchantress demonic music that could control people's souls. Things that could affect the soul were the most difficult to guard against. The only method was to use the strength of the soul to resist them. As a result, they still did not dare to lower their guard, even though they were not the ones facing the heavenly enchantress. However, the heavenly enchantress did not do anything else after plucking the first string. There was no demonic sound that could affect the soul of a saint ruler like everyone had imagined. The crisp sound of the zither did not cause them any discomfort either. However, at this moment, no one noticed that Elder Jia, who was standing in front of them, had become dull. His eyes were empty, and there was no light in them. They had completely lost the color that they were supposed to have. Then, Elder Jia's body swayed slightly, and under everyone's dumbfounded gazes, he fell from the sky. His pair of lifeless old eyes slowly closed. Elder Jia! Elder Jia! With a series of cries, a few saint rulers immediately charged toward Elder Jia. They caught him just as he was about to hit the ground. Elder Jia! Elder Jia, are you all right? The saint rulers surrounded Elder Jia as they called out worriedly. The president and grand elder became stern as well. They immediately descended from the sky and arrived beside Elder Jia. After checking Elder Jia's body, they discovered that he was fine. He was not injured at all. Or what did you do to Elder Jia? The president raised his head and looked at the heavenly enchantress. He asked with a slightly trembling voice. He struggled to believe what had just happened. President, Elder Jia is fine. He'll wake up very soon, said the heavenly enchantress. The president finally let out a sigh of relief when he heard that. He stared at the heavenly enchantress in the sky in fright as his heart churned. Elder Jia was a mighty holy emperor who had reached the fourth heavenly layer, yet he was actually so weak before the heavenly enchantress. Just a single note from his zither had knocked him out. He found this unbelievable. Even though it had happened right before him, he still struggled to accept it. At that moment, whether it was the president, the grand elder, or the saint rulers, all their gazes toward the heavenly enchantress changed drastically. It had changed. A supreme expert at the fourth heavenly layer of the holy emperor was actually so weak before the heavenly enchantress. All of them had witnessed just how terrifying the heavenly enchantress was. Elder Jia slowly opened his eyes. They were filled with confusion, but they cleared up in the blink of an eye. He soon realized that he was lying on the ground and immediately became surprised. He immediately stood up and stared at the heavenly enchantress in the sky in disbelief. His heart, which had remained calm for countless years, began to thump uncontrollably. Elder Jia, are you fine? The president asked in concern. Elder Jia was the only holy emperor in the Union, so his existence was extremely important to them. Elder Jia did not seem to hear the president's voice. He only stared blankly at the heavenly enchantress in the sky. He could not help but think about what had just happened. When the crisp sound of the zither fell into the ears of others, they did not feel any discomfort. However, when Elder Jia heard the sound of the zither, it was as if there was a huge magic that affected him, causing his primordial spirit to become drowsy. Soon, he fell into a deep sleep. Even with his powerful primordial spirit, he could not resist. Elder Jia, you've lost. The heavenly enchantress coldly stared at Elder Jia with her enchanting eyes as she calmly said. It was as if just a single zither note had made Elder Jia, who was at the fourth heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor, fall asleep. It was a very normal matter to her. Sigh. Elder Jia let out a long sigh. His body became hunched once again, returning to his previous hunchback. He said in a rather dejected manner, I've lost. The power of the heavenly enchantress zither note really is terrifying. Even old man cannot compare. The president, grand elder, and the other radiant saint masters and saint rulers all fell silent. A fourth heavenly layer saint king had been defeated just like that. He had been defeated so miserably and in such a horrible manner. He did not even have the chance to fight back. Esteemed President, I hope you can agree to my request and allow me to bring a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master back to 3 Saint Island. I will definitely bring him back safely before long. The heavenly enchantress tone changed. She said to the president extremely politely. Sigh. The president let out a long sigh. He stared at the heavenly enchantress with mixed feelings and said, After not seeing you for so many years, I never thought you'd become so powerful. This has completely exceeded my expectations. With the strength you've displayed, there really isn't anything our union can do to stop you. Whatever, let me go back to 3 Saint Island with you. No, President, the union still needs you to guard it. You can't leave. Let me go, said the Grand Elder. No, President, Grand Elder, the two of you are extremely important to Radiant Saint Masters. You definitely can't leave the union right now. Let me go to 3 Saint Island. Aside from the President and Grand Elder, the only Class 7 Radiant Saint Master present spoke out. His voice was extremely determined. After a moment of thought, the President said, "All right then. The 6th Elder will go to 3 Saint Island with Muir." The President raised his head and stared at the Heavenly Enchantress. He said, "Muir, you have to ensure the 6th Elder's safety along the way." The Heavenly Enchantress nodded before gently moving her slender finger. She ripped open a space gate and left the City of God with the 6th Elder. 3 Saint Island. The Heavenly Enchantress, Xiao Qian, Xiao Yu, Qin Qin, and the white-robed 6th Elder gathered in a cave filled with luminous pearls. They all stared at a chubby boy before them. The little boy was very young, only about 2 or 3 years old. He looked very cute. At this moment, his small mouth was bulging high, and he was trying his best to chew a thumb-sized pill in his mouth. A trace of saliva flowed down from the corner of his mouth. Chapter 1182. The pill refined from the heaven's heart, lotus finally, turned into a liquid in Xiao Bao's mouth and flowed into his stomach. Immediately, a gentle but tremendous energy erupted from Xiao Bao's body, flowing into his limbs and bones, filling up his entire body. The Heavenly Enchantress, the 6th Elder of the Radiant Saint Master Union, Xiao Qian, Xiao Yu, and Qin Qin all stared at Xiao Bao. When the pill turned into tremendous energy and filled Xiao Bao's body, Xiao Qian immediately said, "Xiao Bao, quick, use the method Sister Xiao Qian taught you. Use your mind to circulate the energy in your body." Xiao Bao obediently replied before immediately sitting down. He placed his hands on his knees and closed his eyes in desire. He silently controlled the energy in his body according to the method Sister Xiao Qian had taught him. But soon, a layer of fine sweat appeared on Xiao Bao's forehead, and his expression became somewhat unnatural. He could clearly feel the surging energy in his body, but Xiao Bao, who had yet to step into the path of cultivation, couldn't use his mind to control this vast and gentle energy to do as he wished. Even his ability to control energy with his mind was still at the stage where he didn't fully understand it. The 6th Elder also stared at Xiao Bao closely. He knew what his duty was in coming to 3 Saint Island. The Heavenly Enchantress had personally come to the Radiant Saint Master Union and forcefully brought a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master to 3 Saint Island to prevent anything from happening to the boy while he consumed the heavenly resource. Most importantly, the effects of the 10,000-year-old heavenly resource had become extremely mild after being refined. Even ordinary people would not have any problems ingesting it, but the Heavenly Enchantress still called for a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master out of worry. This was more than enough to demonstrate just how important the boy was to the Heavenly Enchantress. Energy was constantly being produced in Xiao Bao's body. The energy was not under Xiao Bao's control. Instead, it spread to every corner of Xiao Bao's body before slowly fusing with every inch of his flesh and organs. More accurately, it was being absorbed by Xiao Bao's flesh and organs. In the blink of an eye, 2 days passed. Xiao Bao had completely absorbed the pill refined from the heaven's heart lotus. There was no longer any energy in Xiao Bao's body. The Heavenly Enchantress, Xiao Qian, and Xiao Yu immediately placed a hand on Xiao Bao's body to sense his condition. A moment later, their expressions changed abruptly. Their faces were filled with disbelief. How was this possible? There's still no saint force in Xiao Bao's body at all. There's not even a pulse of energy, Xiao Qian involuntarily cried out. A 10,000-year-old heavenly resource is enough to change a person who can't cultivate and increase their strength by quite a lot. But Xiao Bao... No, this is impossible, Xiao Yu shook her head. She seemed to be in some pain, as if she refused to accept this. The energy within a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource was unquestionable, but it was like a stone sinking into the ocean when it entered Xiao Bao's body. Qin was stunned by this as well. She murmured, "Even a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource can't change Xiao Bao's constitution. Is Xiao Bao's constitution really that useless? He's even more useless than a cripple." The heavenly enchantress stared blankly at Xiao Bao's chubby face with her enchanting eyes. She remained silent for a very long time and became rather dejected. She refused to believe that this would happen. She could not accept this at all. The impact on her heart was much greater than everyone else's. Impossible. It can't be like this. The heavenly enchantress finally spoke after quite a while. She could not help but think about what had happened back then. Only the heavenly enchantress knew about Xiao Bao's true identity. She had not found Xiao Bao on the streets. Instead, he was her child, her very own flesh and blood. Back then, she had only given birth to Xiao Bao after 10 whole years of pregnancy. During those 10 years, her strength had increased at an unbelievable rate. She knew that it was all because of the child in her womb. Aside from the dragon's saliva grass that Jianshan had left behind, the main reason why her strength could reach such an unbelievable level in such a short amount of time was because of Xiao Bao. During the 10 years of pregnancy, the heavenly enchantress knew that the child in her womb was extraordinary. As a matter of fact, when she gave birth to Xiao Bao, she had concluded without any hesitation that Xiao Bao would be an unprecedented prodigy, someone who would even surpass the Holy Emperor in the future. However, she had never thought that this would happen. Not only was Xiao Bao not an unprecedented prodigy, he was even a cripple. Even a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource could not change him. He was even more useless than a cripple. "Sigh, what a pitiful Xiao Bao," Xiao Yu sighed helplessly. She felt rather dejected. Xiao Qian fell silent for a while before saying, "Let's not be too pessimistic. Xiao Bao may only be an ordinary person, but ordinary people have their own happiness. They can live without any worries every day, unlike some fighters on the Tianyuan continent who fight to the death for the slightest thing. The end result is just horrible." The heavenly enchantress closed her eyes in some pain. She did not wish for Xiao Bao to be immortal, because the lifespan of mortals was only 200 years at most. 200 years was just far too short. She did not dare to imagine her son slowly growing old and dying right before her eyes. The sixth elder stared at Xiao Bao strangely. His brows furrowed tightly as he murmured, "Strange, strange, truly strange." Even a heaven saint master would need quite some time to digest and absorb the energy within a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource. Yet this child has absorbed such a tremendous amount of energy in just 2 days. This doesn't make sense. Xiao Bao's constitution is like that. We've fed him quite a few 1,000-year-old and 1,000-year-old heavenly resources in the past, but in less than a day, all of the energy is gone. Other than his body becoming tougher than ordinary people, there's nothing else. Xiao Yu sat on the ground as she sat on her knees. Xiao Bao's physique made her very unhappy. Xiao Bao had a crippled physique, which made her very unhappy. Qin arrived beside the sixth elder with hope in her eyes. She asked, "Esteemed Radiant Saint Master, you're very knowledgeable. May I ask if you have any methods to resolve Xiao Bao's problem?" "I really don't have any methods." The sixth elder shook his head with a bitter smile. This was the first time he had seen a constitution that could not be changed even by 10,000-year-old heavenly resources. On the Tianyuan continent, 10,000-year-old heavenly resources were enough to change a cripple. However, these heavenly resources were just far too rare and precious. Their exorbitant price was not something that ordinary people could accept. Suddenly, the sixth elder seemed to think of something. His eyes suddenly lit up, and he said, "Perhaps only a saint artifact like this can have such a wondrous effect." "What is it?" The heavenly enchantress suddenly snapped open her eyes and stared at the sixth elder in interest. Chapter 1183. The Saint's Fruit? What's that? The heavenly enchantress asked in doubt. The saint's fruit is a sacred item of our Tian-Yuan continent. It's a treasure that only belongs to us humans. The sixth elder possessed an extremely detailed understanding of the saint's fruit. He knew no less than the great elders of the protector clans. Afterward, he told the heavenly enchantress everything he knew about the saint's fruit. Wow, it's so powerful. A heavenly resource can actually allow a holy emperor to become a holy emperor. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu immediately cried out when they heard about the saint's fruit's heaven-defying effects. Their faces were filled with amazement, and even Qin Qin was no exception. She had become dumbfounded. The heavenly enchantress looked around and said in thought, "No wonder I sensed a holy emperor's presence from afar a few days ago, spreading across the entire continent. I originally thought that a new holy emperor had appeared on the Tian-Yuan continent, but I never thought that it was actually because of the appearance of the saint's fruit. It's a pity that I was in the ancient medicine village at that time, and it just happened to be a crucial moment in the refinement of the Heaven's Heart Lotus. In order to prevent any accidents from happening during the refinement process, I could only wait there. Otherwise, I definitely would have gone to have a look." The heavenly enchantress looked at the sixth elder and continued, "Sixth elder, are you saying that the saint's fruit can truly allow Xiaobao to undergo a complete transformation and break free from his current state of being unable to cultivate? The saint's fruit is a supreme sacred item in the world. Its wondrous and powerful effects cannot be doubted. Since even a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource is useless to this boy, only the saint's fruit can help him. It's just that side." The sixth elder hesitated and shook his head helplessly. "Sixth elder, just what?" The heavenly enchantress stared at the sixth elder with her enchanting eyes. She seemed rather nervous. "It's just that the saint's fruit already has an owner, and the person who obtained it is definitely not an ordinary person. Even the 10 protector clans of the continent can't do anything to him. It's impossible for you to obtain the saint's fruit." The sixth elder looked up at the sky and sighed. In his mind, he could not help but think of the legend about that person. I must say that he really is an unprecedented genius. Not only is he a Class 6 Radiant Saint Master, but he has also reached an unreachable level as a fighter. The sixth elder sighed inside. His feelings were rather mixed. The heavenly enchantress' expression did not change. It was as if the sixth elder's description of the expert that even the protector clan could not deal with did not affect her at all. She asked, "Sixth elder, may I ask who this person is? The holy emperor of the human race? Or the holy emperor of the orcs?" "Neither." The sixth elder shook his head. "This person isn't old. He only made a name for himself recently. Shangguan, you spend most of your time on Three Saint Island and rarely set foot on the Tian-Yuan continent, so you definitely don't know this person. His name is Jianshin." A gleam of light flashed through the heavenly enchantress' eyes when she heard that. Her expression immediately changed. "What? This person is called Jianshin? Don't tell me he's the young master Jianshin we know." Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu immediately stood up as shock filled their faces. Qin Qin was surprised as well. She immediately took out a painting from her space ring and unfurled it. She asked rather excitedly, "Esteemed Radiant Saint Master, please take a look and see if it's this person." On the scroll was a portrait of Jianshin. The artist's technique was extremely solid, and the drawing was so lifelike that it seemed like a real person. Qin Qin had once drawn the painting in the Tianqin clan and had kept it until now. "Yes, it's him. Do you know Jianshin?" This time, it was the sixth elder's turn to be surprised. His gaze toward Qin Qin changed as well. He had never thought that a weak woman like her would actually carry a portrait of Jianshin with her. Moreover, from how lifelike the portrait was, he was certain that the person who had drawn it had interacted with Jianshin in the past, and had spent quite some time with him. No way. It really is young Master Jianshin. Since when has young Master Jianshin become so powerful? Even the protector clans can't do anything to him. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu's jaws dropped as disbelief filled their faces. The heavenly enchantress stared at the person in the painting blankly. Her emotions were extremely mixed as she struggled to remain calm. Very soon, the heavenly enchantress shifted her gaze away from the painting. Her eyes became icy cold once again. After a moment of thought, she said, "I need to go to the Tian Yuan continent immediately. Sixth Elder, thank you for your assistance this time. May I ask if you want to stay on Three Saint Island or return to the Tian Yuan continent with me?" "I think it's best if I return to the Tian Yuan continent." Many experts were heavily injured in the battle for the Saint's Fruit. Many Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters have been invited away by the various clans. "Our union is in need of people right now, so it's best if I return," said the Sixth Elder. The Bright Moon Divine Hall continued to hover above the Chanyang clan in Lore City in the Jessen Kingdom. However, the atmosphere within the Chanyang clan was rather solemn. There were clearly many more guards patrolling the area, and the experts hidden everywhere had increased by several times as well. Chanyang Zhu Yunxiao's wounds had been healed by the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force, so he had made a full recovery. However, even though he was still alive, he lived in deep sorrow. His mind wandered all day long, and he was in extremely low spirits. Everything that had happened in the Protector clan was still fresh in his mind. It had an extremely heavy impact on his heart, leaving behind irreparable wounds. That was his home, the place where he had been born and raised. He had special feelings for that place, but now he knew that he would probably never be able to return. Chanyang Zuyun stayed by Chanyang Zhu Yunxiao's side. She did not say anything to comfort him. She only quietly waited by his side. Chanyang Zhu Yunkong's return had made up for Chanyang Zhu Yun's pain of missing her son, allowing her mind to reach perfection. Her soul increased bit by bit every day, and she was about to break through to Holy Emperor. Jianshun did not tell anyone else about what had happened in the Protector clan. He did not even tell his parents. He only made up a random excuse to fool them. After all, the matter this time had been rather large. Not only had he offended a Protector clan, but he had also offended a group of ancestors who possessed frightening seniority in Chanyang Ba and the others. He did not want this matter to cause trouble for his parents. Jianshun, Yu, and Tai Ta gathered together in the most majestic hall in Chanyang Prefecture. Jianshun had completely recovered now. He wore luxurious robes embroidered with golden threads, which made him seem like a young master of a large clan. "Jianshun, the Chanyang Prefecture has gone too far. They've actually treated you like this. Fortunately, my master informed me in time that you were in danger, or..." Yu was furious. She felt a lingering fear whenever she thought about what had happened to Jianshun. She secretly rejoiced that she had arrived in time. "I will have my revenge sooner or later." Jianshun was emotionless. His voice was rather heavy as he hid an extremely powerful killing intent inside. This time he had almost died. If Yu had not arrived in time with the Bright Moon Divine Hall, the consequences would have been unthinkable. He obviously would not have been able to keep the Saint's Fruit that he had spent so much effort to obtain. Now that Tai Ta's identity has been exposed, I think Chanyang Qingyun and the others will definitely do something, Jianshun said with a heavy voice as the light in his eyes flickered. "Jianshun, why don't you get Tai Ta to hide in the Bright Moon Divine Hall? The Bright Moon Divine Hall is far tougher than any other Divine Hall. Even the experts of the Protector clans won't dare to force their way in," Yu suggested. She had gained some understanding of Tai Ta's identity from Jianshun. "Fourth young master, there's a secret letter that you need to personally open." At this moment, a guard's voice rang out from outside. "Send it in," Jianshun ordered. The door was gently pushed open, and a guard carefully held a letter with both hands. He bowed slightly as he walked in from outside, directly passing the letter to Jianshun. Jianshun read the letter, and his face immediately sank. He exerted force in his hand, and strands of chaotic force surged out of his hand. With a bang, the secret letter in his hand exploded and turned into dust. "Jianshun, what did the letter say to make you so angry?" Yu asked in concern. A sliver of worry appeared on her face. Chapter 1184. Chanyang Qingyun has gone too far. He's actually threatened you with something like that. He's no different from a shameless person. He doesn't deserve to be a great elder of a Protector clan, Yu said with righteous indignation. The Saint's Fruit had been obtained by Jianshun through great effort with the assistance of Ruijin. "Hey Yu, and Heyu. Logically speaking, it should have belonged to Jianshun, yet Changyang Qingyun, as the greatest great elder of a protector clan and Jianshun Senior, had actually done something so despicable. Yi became very angry as well. Taita's expression became very ugly as well. After a moment of silence, he seemed to have made up his mind. He gritted his teeth and said, Jianshun, I better leave this place. Otherwise, once Changyang Qingyun really does unite all the experts from the Beast God continent and the Tian Yuan continent, you'll be dragged in as well. I've already learned quite a few of the mysteries of war, so even if I can't defeat them, I can run away. Jianshun raised his hand to stop Taita's suggestion without any hesitation. He stared at Taita with a reproachful gaze and said, Taita, don't mention something like that again. The protector clans are very powerful, but it's not enough for us to fear them. Even if they unite all the experts from the two continents, would they really be able to kill us? Taita, don't be discouraged. Don't forget that we still have the bright Moon Divine Hall. My master said that the Divine Hall is so tough that even the Holy Emperor can't break through it. At the same time, the formation she cast down in the Divine Hall back then is a supreme killing formation that can easily kill even the Holy Emperor. As long as we have the Bright Moon Divine Hall, they won't be able to do anything to us even if they unite all the experts from the two continents. Yu said complacently. She couldn't hide the excitement in her heart because she finally had the ability to help Jianshun. She could share Jianshun's worries. To her, this was a very significant matter. At this moment, Jianshun's expression changed. He suddenly turned his head and looked into the distance. His gaze seemed to be able to see the situation outside through the obstacles of the house. His eyes flashed with a divine light. Immediately, Taita's expression changed, and he stood up abruptly. A strong fighting spirit was boiling in his heart. He said in a low, muffled voice, Jianshun, the people from Changyang Prefecture are attacking us. Jianshun shook his head with a hint of doubt in his eyes. Taita, calm down. Things might not be what you think. Let's go out and take a look first. At this moment, there was a large group of people flying in the air outside of Lore City. They were slowly making their way into the city at a moderate speed. There were several hundred of them. This spectacular scene in the sky was witnessed by the people of Lore City. Once again, it caused a huge commotion in the city. Everyone who saw this scene was completely stunned. Everyone knew that anyone who could fly was a Heaven Saint Master without exception. There were only a dozen or so of such experts in the entire kingdom of Jesson, and there were even a few who had only appeared in recent years. Every single one of them possessed an extremely high status in the kingdom of Jesson, where they were on equal footing with the king. They rarely showed themselves. Yet now, they had seen several hundred people who could fly in the sky all of a sudden. The shock that this caused could not be any greater. The group of people in the sky directly flew toward Changyang Prefecture. In the end, they all descended at the entrance of Changyang Prefecture. All the authoritative people of Changyang Prefecture had already gathered at the entrance. They all stood there quietly, and no one said anything. The person at the very front was the gloomy Changyang Zuyinshao. Changyang Zhu Yiyun accompanied him closely. Behind them were Jianshun, Yu, Taita, and the patriarch of Changyang Prefecture, Changyangba. Among the several hundred people flying in from outside the city, the old man at the very front was the great elder of the Changyang Protector clan. He was the person with the highest seniority in the Zhu branch, Changyang Zhu Shao. Changyang Zhu Shao was rather dispirited right now. His face was filled with loneliness, helplessness, and pain. In a daze, he seemed to have aged even more. Among the several hundred people behind Changyang Zhu Shao, there were both young and old. There were both strong and weak people. The strong ones were saint rulers, while the weak ones were young men and children. They were not even Earth Saint Masters. They had all been carried by their seniors. But among them, all of the older people had expressions that were filled with a dense sense of loneliness. Their expressions were dim, and their eyes were dull. Great-grandfather, what's going on? Changyang Zuyun Shao suppressed the pain in his heart and asked in doubt. Sigh. Changyang Zhu Shao let out a long sigh. Tears flickered in his aged eyes, and he said, "Xiao, I can't stay any longer after something like this has happened to the clan. I've already left Chanyang Prefecture. The people behind me are all people from the Zhu branch who are willing to leave Chanyang Prefecture with me. Most of them are staying in Chanyang Prefecture." Chanyang Zuyun Xiao violently trembled when he heard that. He immediately clenched his fists tightly before slowly releasing them a while later. He sighed at the sky and said, "It's good that you're leaving. It's good that you're leaving." On that day, several hundred people immediately joined Chanyang Prefecture in Lore City. However, all of them possessed extraordinary statuses. They were all clansmen of the Protector clan in Chanyang Prefecture, and there were over a dozen saint rulers among them. Even within the Protector clan, they possessed a certain level of status. Most of the saint rulers of the Zhu branch had chosen to follow Chanyang Zhu Xiao when he left Chanyang Prefecture this time. Only an extremely small number of them chose to remain in Chanyang Prefecture. However, the few hundred people who had left Chanyang Prefecture were less than 1/100th of the total population of the Zhu branch. Fortunately, Chanyang Prefecture was extremely large after the reconstruction. Even with the addition of several hundred people, it did not seem crowded at all. Chanyang Ba had taken care of the people properly, so Chanyang Zhu Xiao naturally became the person with the highest status there. Jianshan was touched by Chanyang Zhu Xiao's actions. He felt warmth fill his heart. He knew that he was not alone in the Protector clan. At the very least, the people of the Zhu branch stood by his side. Chanyang Zhu Xiao did not mention the matter of the saint's fruit at all. After visiting Chanyang Zhu Xiao, Jianshan directly went to where Rujin, Honglian, and Blackfish resided. At this moment, Heiyu sat on the bed. His face was dark, and the poison in his body still had not been purged. The saint artifact had turned into a fist-sized pagoda that hovered beside him. It slowly revolved, shining with a hazy golden light. Honglian and Ruijin sat nearby with bitter faces. They frowned in thought. "Senior Blackfish, how are you? Has the poison still not been purged?" Jinshin's heart immediately tightened when he saw Blackfish's still dark complexion. Chapter 1185. What? A poison that even the artifact spirit can't neutralize? How can there be such an unbelievable poison on the Tian Yuan continent? Jinshin was shocked by Blackfish's words. Disbelief flooded his face. Honglian and I have tidied up our inherited memories. We were unable to find any information about the poison in Blackfish's body, so there's nothing we can do about it, Ruijin said in a heavy voice. Ruijin said with a deep voice. He had an extremely deep relationship with Heiyu, so he felt very uncomfortable that Heiyu was in such a dangerous situation. The room fell silent for a moment. None of the four of them said anything. They all felt very heavy inside. Ruijin and Honglian did not know about the poison, and even the Radiant Saint Force origin energy that the artifact spirit could not neutralize it. The poison had exceeded all of their imaginations. Honglian thought about it and said, "I can vaguely remember that the people who poisoned Blackfish were a few Holy Emperor experts. They're probably from a Protector clan." "A Protector clan?" Jianshin murmured. A gleam of light flashed through his eyes, and he said, "I'll go invite great-grandfather Chanyang Zhu Xiao over. He's also a member of a Protector clan, so he's experienced and knowledgeable. He might be able to do something." With that, Jianshan immediately went to invite Chanyang Zhu Xiao. Before long, the rather haggard Chanyang Zhu Xiao arrived with Jianshan, where Ruijin, Honglian, and Heijin were resting. Chanyang Zhu Xiao stared at Blackfish for a while before gradually frowning. He said with a heavy voice, "I recognize this poison. It's the unique technique of the Heaven's Incense School, the poison of Heaven's End." "The poison of Heaven's End? Then how do we neutralize it?" Ruijin quickly arrived beside Chanyang Zhu Xiao and asked nervously. He was extremely worried. "It's rumored that the poison of Heaven's End can even kill a Holy Emperor. There's no other way to neutralize it other than finding the antidote," said Chanyang Zhu Xiao. "If that's the case, I'll kill my way to the Heaven's Incense School right now." A powerful battle intent radiated from Ruijin. In order to obtain the antidote and save Blackfish, He had to go even if it was a dragon's den or a tiger's den. No, you can't be reckless. I admire your strength. If it was outside, it would be very difficult for the people of the Protector clans to be your opponent unless they use Emperor armaments. However, you might not be able to gain the upper hand in the Protector clan's headquarters because it's a place where even a holy emperor can't break through. However, you might not have any advantage in the Protector clanses The Bright Moon Divine Hall would not have been able to break in so easily and retreat so easily if it weren't for the great internal turmoil that occurred in Chanyang Prefecture last time, said Chanyang Zhu Xiao. Senior Ruijin, we must go to the Heavens Incense School, but we need to make sure we're prepared. After all, we won't be clashing with the Protector clans outside this time. We'll be in their territory, so they'll have the advantage, said Jianshan. Ruijin had been rather impulsive earlier, but he was not a reckless person. He felt that what Jianshan and Chanyang Zhu Xiao had said made sense. So he said, all right then, let's make preparations as soon as possible in the next 2 days. We have to set off as soon as possible. Blackfish can't last much longer. Chanyang Zhu Xiao nodded. You can only deal with this matter yourselves. Although Yun Xiao and I have already left Chanyang Prefecture, it's still inconvenient for us to directly assist you. With that, Chanyang Zhu Xiao paused. He looked at Jianshan strangely and said, and you better think of a way to deal with your friend as soon as possible. Once the people of the Tian Yuan continent learn about the war god, they'll never let him go. At that time, it won't just be the experts of the Tian Yuan continent. Maybe even the experts of the beast god continent will hunt him down. After all, both the Tian Yuan continent and the beast god continent had deep grievances with the war god in ancient times. Chanyang Qingyun has already sent a letter to me. He wants me to use the saint's fruit to buy the secret of Tai Ta's identity, said Jianshan. Chanyang Zhu Xiao sank into his thoughts. After a while of thought, he said, looks like Chanyang Qingyun probably won't reveal the fact that he's the war god of the 100 races in a short amount of time. We need to stabilize him first. I'll immediately send someone back to tell him that if he wants the saint's fruit, he needs to keep it a secret. This method may be able to keep him busy temporarily, but it won't last long. Actually, we already have a plan to deal with Tai Ta's safety. When the time comes, all he needs to do is hide in the Bright Moon Divine Hall, and he'll be safe. Even the Holy Emperor won't be able to threaten him, said Chanyang Zhu Xiao. There were only 2 safest places for Tai Ta right now. One was Mercenary City, and the other was the Bright Moon Divine Hall. However, Jianshan understood even more clearly that he could hide in Mercenary City before Tai Ta's identity was exposed, but he definitely could not go there now that his identity had been exposed, let alone whether the other powerful elders of Mercenary City would object. Even if Mercenary City was willing to protect Tai Ta, they would be despised by all the people of the continent. They would no longer be able to maintain their sacred status. Jianshan had considered letting Tai Ta return to the 100 races as well, but this was no different from suicide in his eyes. Although he had never been to the 100 races and did not understand their strength, he still roughly knew that they were nowhere near as powerful as the Tian Yuan continent. They could not even fend off the Tian Yuan continent with their weak strength, let alone fend off the combined attacks of the Tian Yuan continent and Beast God continent. In short, it was impossible for the people of the Tian Yuan continent and Beast God continent to let Tai Ta return to normal. Once Tai Ta's strength surpassed the level of the Holy Emperor, no one in the world would be able to fend him off other than the young winged tiger. The creator of the Bright Moon Divine Hall, Fairy Hao Yue, was the greatest person under the Holy Emperor back then. The records say that she had already reached the brink of surpassing the Holy Emperor, but she failed to break through in the end. Her Bright Moon Divine Hall was forged from special materials from the moon, so it's extraordinary. Even the Holy Emperor was unable to damage it at all. Hiding in the Bright Moon Divine Hall is indeed a good idea, but at that time, you'll need to take everyone in the Chanyang Prefecture into the Divine Hall, as well as everyone related to you. Otherwise, I'm worried that some people will use the people you're familiar with to threaten you, Chanyang Zhu Xiao said rather sternly. Jianshan's face changed slightly. He said with a deep voice, then the flame mercenaries will be rather troublesome. With the current scale of the flame mercenaries, Their total population is probably over 1 million, and many of them are scattered everywhere. It'll be extraordinarily difficult to take all of them into the bright moon divine hall. At the same time, Fairy Haoyue is still alive. Her soul still exists, and she can completely control the bright moon divine hall. If Fairy Haoyue refuses to take so many people into the divine hall, then you might as well just let me seal up the protector clans, Ruijin suddenly said. What? You have the ability to seal up the protector clans? Chanyang Zhu Xiao was astounded. He stared at Ruijin in disbelief. Ruijin nodded. My dragon clan possesses many supreme secret techniques. There's a secret technique that can seal up a region of space. Although the protector clans stay in their own miniature worlds, the entrance to the miniature world remains the same. I can use the secret technique to seal up the entrance to the outside world, so they won't be able to come out. They won't be able to use any secret techniques to send messages either. Fantastic. We don't need to worry about Taita's identity being exposed like that. Senior Ruijin, when can we set off to seal up the entrance to Chanyang Prefecture? Jianshan asked rather eagerly. I need to return to Dragon Island and retrieve some million-year-old dragon saliva grass from the dragon's tomb. I'll use the essence within the dragon saliva grass to complete the seal, but the seal won't last for too long. It might be a century, a few decades, or even a few years before they break through, said Ruijin. Every moment counts. Even if it's just a few years, that's enough. Jianshan immediately became confident. He thought of Uncle Xiao and the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, Tianjian, who had gone into seclusion with Amagami. Uncle Xiao would definitely become a holy emperor with Amagami's assistance, while Tianjian would become a holy emperor as well after consuming the saint's fruit. A few years was enough. At this moment, the beautiful sound of a zither rang out. It was very gentle, but it seemed to come from all directions if one listened carefully. It was impossible to find the source of the sound. The moment the sound of the zither rang out, everyone in the room stopped talking. Aside from Jianshan, the souls of Chanyang Zhu Yunxiao, Ruijin, Honglian, and Black Fish all shuddered. Their souls had actually been affected by the sound of the zither. An attack of the soul. What a great technique. She's actually fused the most terrifying attack into music, Chanyang Zhu Yunxiao said in a deep voice. Attacks of the soul were the most difficult to defend against. They could only be forcefully resisted with the soul, which was why they were the most terrifying attacks. It's that girl. Why do I feel like her strength has increased by a lot since we last saw her in the City of God? Blackfish asked as he sat on the bed. His voice was filled with uncontainable surprise. Her attacks of the soul are becoming more and more terrifying. Ruijin said sternly. At the same time, he was perplexed. He had no idea why her strength had changed so drastically. Chapter 1186. Not only did the people of the Chanyang clan hear the zither music, but even many people in Lore City heard it as well. However, they were not affected at all. They only treated it as a beautiful song, as if the attacks of the soul within the music were completely useless against them. Even saint rulers were not affected by it. Jianshan flew into the sky. The zither music continued to linger in the air, but he failed to find any traces of the person as far as the eye could see. He could not even find the source of the music. Jianshan slowly closed his eyes with mixed feelings. He expanded the senses of his soul and rapidly expanded in all directions. Very soon, Jianshan opened his eyes. He looked to the east and gently sighed. With a single movement, he vanished, shooting off into the distance with lightning-like speed. A few seconds later, Jianshan had already left Lore City. He stopped on a small hill 10 kilometers away from the city. There was a 2-meter-tall rock in front of him. A veiled woman sat on the rock with her back to him. A simple zither was placed before her, and as her slender fingers slowly slid across the strings, beautiful music rang out. Jinshan's emotions became extremely mixed for a moment as he stared at the familiar figure. He had not seen the heavenly enchantress since he had left Dragon Island. This was the first time he had seen her. However, Jianshan actually felt like he had no idea how to face the heavenly enchantress right now. Jianshan quietly stared at the heavenly enchantress figure before leaping up. He landed on the rock in a nimble manner and arrived beside the heavenly enchantress a step behind her. He gently asked, "Why have you come?" The heavenly enchantress' face remained veiled. She did not seem to hear what Jinshin had said. Her enchanting eyes stared at the zither of the demonic cry without blinking. She was extremely focused on the zither, as if it was the only zither in the world in her eyes. Jinshin didn't say anything. He just stood there quietly, gazing into the distance. No one knew what he was thinking. After who knew how long, the song finally came to an end. The heavenly enchantress gently placed her hands on the strings as she stared at the zither. She said, "I've come to find you this time because I want something." The heavenly enchantress' voice was very calm. There was some coldness in her voice, as if she wanted to keep everyone at arm's length. The light in Jinshin's eyes flickered. He gently sighed. "I already know. You want the saint's fruit, right?" "That's right. Give me the saint's fruit." The heavenly enchantress' voice was rather domineering. She did not hold back at all, as if asking Jinshin for the saint's fruit was only natural. "No, I can't give you the saint's fruit." Jinshin gently shook his head. He had prepared the saint's fruit for Tianjin and would not give it to anyone else. "You have to give me the saint's fruit. This time, I have to take it back with me." The heavenly enchantress' gaze became rather sharp. "If you want anything else from me, I can give it to you, but not the saint's fruit." Jinshin did not back down at all. The heavenly enchantress suddenly stood up. She stared at Jinshin with her enchanting eyes. Her eyes were filled with anger as she loudly said, "With your talent, you don't need the saint's fruit to become the holy emperor. What are you keeping it for? Give it to me." There was no reason or explanation. The heavenly enchantress wanted the saint's fruit in a righteous manner. As a father, he should have left the best for his child. "I've specially come to pick the saint's fruit for Senior Tianjin. It's my gift to Senior Tianjin. I won't give it to anyone else other than Senior Tianjin," Jinshin coldly said. He had no idea what the heavenly enchantress wanted the saint's fruit for, but he did not ask either. "You're giving the saint's fruit to the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, Senior Tianjin?" The heavenly enchantress asked in some disbelief. "That's right." The heavenly enchantress shook violently with Jinshin's confirmation. She became rather dejected as pain filled her eyes. "How can this be?" the heavenly enchantress murmured. Tianjin had once shown great kindness to her, so she really could not find any reason to stop Jinshin from gifting the saint's fruit to Tianjin. However, Xiao Bao's body desperately needed the saint's fruit. At that moment, the heavenly enchantress truly found it difficult to make a choice. Jinshin stared at the heavenly enchantress' expression in surprise. The heavenly enchantress was a cold and prideful person in his impression. Ever since he had met her, she had always displayed an icy side. He had never seen her so dejected before. Looks like the saint's fruit is extremely important to her, Jinshin thought. Although he owed her, he could not give away the saint's fruit. Tears flickered in the heavenly enchantress' eyes. She had never felt so helpless before. Xiao Bao's body was just far too weak. She really could not think of any other way to save him apart from the saint's fruit. Without the saint's fruit, Xiao Bao would only be able to live as an ordinary person for the rest of his life, enjoying a short lifespan of 200 years. If she had really found Xiao Bao, she would not have cared so much, but Xiao Bao was not. He was her flesh and blood after all. She did not wish to see Xiao Bao return to the earth 200 years later. Jinshin became very curious when he noticed the tears in the heavenly enchantress' eyes. He asked, "I know you definitely don't want the saint's fruit for yourself. Can you tell me why you want it? Maybe I can help you in some other way. I will come looking for you again." The heavenly enchantress coldly turned around. With a gentle gust of wind, she had already vanished. She had already turned into a blur as she carried her zither, vanishing in the blink of an eye. Jinshin stood on the rock with his arms crossed. He sank into his thoughts as he watched the heavenly enchantress leave. With a slight movement, he left behind a blur and returned to the Changyang Prefecture in Lore City. When Jinshin returned to Changyang Prefecture, Ruijin had already left. He had gone to Dragon Island alone to collect the dragon saliva grass. They had already discussed and decided to seal up Chanyang Prefecture first before going to the Heaven's Incense School. Honglian was nowhere to be seen as well. She had already gone to the artifact space to prepare the formations. Whether it was sealing up Chanyang Prefecture or going to the Heaven's Incense School, neither of them were trivial matters. They needed to make sure they were prepared. After all, they were directly attacking the enemy's base this time and not fighting outside. That afternoon, a space gate suddenly opened above the Chanyang clan in Lore City. Two energetic old men walked out with smiles on their faces. They radiated with powerful presences that enveloped the entire clan. They were saint rulers. However, as soon as the two of them stepped out of the space gate, their smiles suddenly froze. Over a dozen saint rulers had silently appeared around the two of them at some point in time. Every single one of them gave off a more powerful presence than the two of them. Konger, it's Kong. A pleasantly surprised voice rang out as the graceful Chanyang Zuyin charged over in joy. The two of them were Chanyang Zuyin Kong and Chang Wuji. The saint rulers around Chanyang Zuyin Kong immediately became amiable when they heard Chanyang Zuyin's voice. Some of them even smiled amicably. So, it's brother Yin Kong. It's actually nephew Yin Kong. These saint rulers were all members of the Zhu branch. Many of them were Chanyang Zhu Yunkong seniors, so they all began to greet him. Chanyang Zhu Yunkong recognized these people with a single glance. He immediately became stunned. Jianchun personally came out to receive them as well. However, what pleased him the most was that Changbo had finally become a saint ruler. His lifespan had increased by 2,000 years. 2,000 years was enough for Changbo to change far, far too much. He could completely use heavenly resources to change his constitution, allowing his body to undergo a metamorphosis. Coupled with his various superior conditions, Jianshun was confident that Changbo would be able to become a holy emperor in the future. Everyone chatted with one another before dispersing. Chanyang Zuyin Kong was obviously taken away by Chanyang Zuyin, while Jianshun was taken his room by Changbo, fourth young master. It's all thanks to these 3 beast furs that I was able to break through to Saint Ruler this time. My talent is mediocre, and I've reached the end of my life. If it weren't for these 3 beast furs, I wouldn't have been able to become a Saint Ruler, even with Shaoling's help. Fourth young master, I really have to thank you. Changbo thanked him before returning the 3 beast furs to Jianshun. It really had been extremely difficult for him to break through to Saint Ruler this time. Jianshun accepted the 3 beast furs and frowned slightly. He said with some displeasure, Changbo, don't say things like that, or I'll get angry. Changbo chuckled and did not dwell on the topic. He said, Master and Huang Tianba's strength increased very quickly during this period of seclusion. With Shaoling's assistance, it became hundreds of times easier for them to comprehend the mysteries of the world, and they don't have to worry about the energy of the world. Huang Tianba is now at the 8th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. He wants to use this rare opportunity to break through to Holy Emperor in a single stroke. Changbo paused when he reached there. He glanced outside deeply and asked softly, Fourth young master, has something happened recently? Why have so many seniors of the Zhu branch come to the estate? Changbo was also a Saint Ruler now, so he could take care of himself. As a result, Jianshun did not hide anything from Changbo. He told him everything that had happened in the protector clan of Chanyang Prefecture, which immediately stunned Changbo. At this moment, a guard reported, Fourth young master, supervisor, the old man has invited you to the discussion hall. The old man mentioned by the guard was obviously Chanyang Zuyun, the person with the greatest authority in Chanyang Prefecture. When Jianshun and Changbo arrived in the discussion hall, they just happened to hear Chanyang Zuyunkong's furious voice. They've gone too far. They've gone too far. They've actually done something like that. They're shameless. Father, mother, let's completely break away from the Protector clan from today onwards. The Protector clan of Chanyang Prefecture will no longer have anything to do with our Chanyang Prefecture. Chapter 1187. Jianshun, Changwuji, Chanyang Zuyun Xiao, Chanyang Zuyun Kong, Chanyang Zuyun, Chanyang Zu Xiao, and a few other saint rulers from the Protector clans gathered together. They mainly discussed what had happened in the Protector clans and how they would develop in the future. Chanyang Zuyunkong was the most furious out of all of them. He indignantly declared that he would completely break away from the Protector clans and that Chanyang Prefecture would become independent. He would no longer have anything to do with the Protector clans. Chanyang Zhu Xiao had brought a group of people from the Zhu branch to Lore City. Their actions had already explained everything. They just lacked an official announcement. The atmosphere in the hall became stifling. Chanyang Zhu Xiao and the others all felt extremely heavy inside. None of them said anything at that moment. A while later, Chanyang Zhu Xiao finally made up his mind. He said through gritted teeth, "I now declare that I, Chanyang Zhu Xiao, will break away from the Protector clan of Chanyang Prefecture. I will no longer have anything to do with the Protector clan of Chanyang Prefecture. I declare that I, Chanyang Zuyin Xiao, will also break away from the Protector clan of Chanyang Prefecture." Chanyang Zuyin Xiao was the second to declare his position. "I, Chanyang Zuyin, will also break away from Chanyang Prefecture." The people of the Zhu branch all declared their departure from Chanyang Prefecture. In reality, they had already made preparations for this ever since they had come to Lore City with Chanyang Zhu Xiao. Only a small portion of the people from the Zhu branch had left Chanyang Prefecture this time. Most of the people from the Zhu branch had chosen to remain in the Protector clan, but the people who had left the Protector clan were the most powerful. They were the most powerful force in the Zhu branch. After the meeting, Jianshun went to visit his parents first. He chatted with them for a while before visiting his three aunts. The first aunt, Ling Long, and the second aunt, Yu Fengyin, were not in a very good mental state. Their children had already been gone for many years without any news, so they missed them very much. Yu Fengyin was still fine. Although she had not seen her daughter for many years, she knew in her heart that her daughter had become the saintess of a powerful force. She was more or less gratified. However, Ling Long spent her days in fear. The words of the pavilion master of the Pure Heart Pavilion were still deeply engraved in her mind. Although Chanyang, who had become a disciple of the Pure Heart Pavilion and was highly regarded by the pavilion master, she couldn't feel the slightest bit of happiness in her heart. She was extremely afraid that Chanyang would abandon his family and friends and forget about her, his mother. Jinshin's aunt, Bai Yushuang, had lived a very satisfied life in the past few years. Her son, Chanyang Ku, had undergone a complete transformation with Jinshin's assistance. Although he was nowhere close to Jinshin's level, his cultivation speed had increased drastically, and he had become an Earth Saint Master half a month ago. Chanyang had held a wedding several years ago. His wife was a princess of the kingdom of Jessen, and the king of the kingdom of Jessen had personally come to propose the marriage. Afterward, Jianshan left Chanyang Prefecture with Yu, strolling through Lore City on foot. "Jianshan, where are we going?" Yu hugged one of Jianshan's arms as she looked at Jianshan affectionately. Her eyes were filled with gentleness. "You'll know very soon," Jianshan faintly smiled. Very soon, Jianshan and Yu arrived at the center of Lore City. This was also the most bustling area of the city. Before Jianshan was a 4-story restaurant. It was extremely luxurious and extravagant. In the eyes of outsiders, it was definitely a restaurant that only the rich could enter, but the situation was the exact opposite. Not only were there merchants and young masters in luxurious robes, but there were also careless mercenaries as well. Let's go in. It's been so long. So it's about time for me to visit Auntie," Jianshan gently said before entering the restaurant with Yu. Even though it was not mealtime yet, there were many people in the restaurant. The first floor was almost full, and the loud noise was like thunder, deafening people. The level of consumption in this restaurant was clearly segregated. The majority of people sitting on the first floor were mercenaries who spent all day fighting with magical beasts and enemies. Naturally, their bodies emitted a valiant aura. Only a small number of merchants dined here. As for those wealthy merchants and young masters wearing luxurious robes, they all went to the second floor of the restaurant and did not stay on the first floor. The restaurant was a place where conflicts happened the most. Often, there would be some hot-tempered mercenaries who would get drunk and go crazy. They would fight in the restaurant, and in the end, bloodshed would occur. Not long after Jianxin and Yu Yu entered the restaurant, two groups of mercenaries started arguing. Damn it, can't you guys be a little quieter? It's so noisy that your grandpa doesn't even have the mood to drink. A tall and sturdy mercenary with a head of fiery red hair smashed the wine jar at his hand heavily on the table and shouted at the mercenaries at the table next to him. The originally noisy restaurant immediately quieted down. Everyone's gaze was focused on the mercenary with fiery red hair. The table that was yelled at by the red-haired mercenary also quieted down. There were a total of 4 people at the table, and all of them were drunk. Their faces were red, but each of them was emitting an unusually fierce aura. This was something that only people who had experienced slaughter would possess. The 4 of them had clearly been baptized in blood as well, and were ruthless characters who often wandered through slaughter and battle. Bang! One of the 4 viciously slammed the table, shattering it with great force. He glared at the mercenary and said coldly, "How dare you speak to us, the 4 brothers of the Exploding Bear clan? Like that? You must be tired of living. How dare you speak to us, the 4 brothers of the Exploding Bear clan? This person cannot be forgiven. Take his life as an apology to us." Another one of the 4 brothers called out sternly. He had a fiery temper as well, and his saint weapon had already condensed in his hand. It was a huge axe. The mercenary sneered. "How dare you speak such arrogant words? You really don't know how to write the word death." As he said that, the mercenary clenched his hand and surging fire-attributed saint force immediately surged out. It quickly condensed into a huge, fire-red sword in his hand. An Earth Saint Master. It's actually the most powerful element out of the 6 fire-attributed saint force. A deep cry immediately rang out in the restaurant. An Earth Saint Master could already be regarded as a rare expert in Lore City. The mercenary and the 4 brothers of the Exploding Bear clan were already on the verge of a battle. At this moment, a middle-aged man who seemed to be a merchant stood up. He clasped his hands at them with a smile and said, "Everyone, you must not be from the kingdom of Jessen. I am Fang Yinhua, so let me give you a piece of advice. You've come to the wrong place to fight. Do not cause trouble in this restaurant, or you'll be in trouble even if you're Heaven Saint Masters." Whether it was the mercenary or the 4 brothers of the Exploding Bear clan, their faces all changed. Heaven Saint Masters were peak experts in their eyes. Even with the entire kingdom of Jessen in perspective, there were only around a dozen of them. Of course, this was excluding the hidden strength of the Changyang prefecture. The red-haired mercenary calmed down very quickly after his surprise. He did not believe Fang Yanhua's words and sneered. Even Heaven Saint Masters are in trouble. Is the owner of this restaurant a hermit saint ruler? Fang Yanhua knew that the mercenary would react like this. He faintly smiled. That's not the case, but it's close because this restaurant is under the protection of the Changyang prefecture. The Changyang prefecture has saint rulers. Oomph. Do you think I'll believe that a mere restaurant can be protected by the great Changyang prefecture? If that's the case, you're better off tricking 3-year-old children, the 4 brothers sneered. They did not believe Fang Yinhua at all. Fang Yinhua glanced at them in pity before sitting back down. He no longer paid any attention to them. The temperature in the restaurant suddenly skyrocketed. The sword in the mercenary's hand glowed with a red light as he pointed it at the 4 brothers. The 4 brothers did not back down. They all drew their saint weapons. The 4 of them were Earth Saint Masters as well, but they were not as strong as the mercenary individually. As a result, they could only work together. At this moment, a group of people in black robes silently walked in. There were a total of 12 of them, and all of them were emotionless. The leading middle-aged man was a Heaven Saint Master. Quite a few people in the restaurant immediately cast gazes of admiration and respect at the sight of the group. They were the enforcers of the Changyang prefecture, and even the weakest of them was an Earth Saint Master. The seemingly ordinary black robes had become a symbol of strength, status, and glory in their eyes. Take away all those who dare to cause trouble here. The middle-aged man in the lead coldly stared at the 4 Exploding Bear brothers and the red-haired mercenary. Just a single glance was enough to make the red-haired mercenary and the 4 Exploding Bear brothers tremble and lose all will to fight. A Heaven Saint Master. The mercenary and the four brothers even wanted to die. They had never thought that they would actually provoke experts, and they would come so quickly. Was this restaurant really a place protected by the Chanyang Prefecture? They did not even have the thought of resisting against a Heaven Saint Master. The mercenary and the four brothers were all taken away by the enforcers of the Chanyang Prefecture. Everyone, please continue eating. I am the captain of the enforcers, Jiang Cheng. Please forgive me if I have offended you. Jiang Cheng did not put on any airs of a Heaven Saint Master. He seemed very approachable. It was not that he did not have any pride, but that pride could only be seen outside. In this restaurant, even he had to lower himself because he knew just how close the restaurant's owner was to the Chanyang Prefecture. As a result, he did not even want to offend the customers in the restaurant. At this moment, Jiang Cheng's expression suddenly froze. He stared blankly at Jianshan and Yu who were about to go up to the second floor. His face was filled with disbelief, but it soon turned into ecstasy and excitement. There was also unconcealable admiration and respect. Jiang Cheng quickly walked over and suddenly knelt down in front of everyone. He said with a trembling voice, Jiang Cheng of the enforcers of the Chanyang Prefecture greets the fourth young master and the princess. Jianshan smiled. He waved his hand, and an invisible force lifted Jiang Cheng up. He said, Fifth cycle Heaven Saint Master. Not bad. Jiang Cheng, guard this restaurant well. You could become a Saint Master within 100 years. Jiang Cheng was overjoyed. He said excitedly, Don't worry, fourth young master. I will use my life to protect this restaurant. As long as I'm alive, I will not allow anyone to cause trouble here. Jianshan nodded and then went up to the second floor with Yu. A moment later, the first floor of the restaurant exploded with noise. Fourth young master? Was that young man just now the fourth young master of the Chanyang Prefecture? He is the imperial protector of the kingdom of Jessen. He is a genius of the Tianyuan continent. He has already become a saint ruler at such a young age. I'm afraid it's more than that. I heard that the fourth young master of the Chanyang Prefecture is already a holy emperor. I never thought that I would actually meet the elusive fourth young master. Chapter 1188. Jianshan and Yu arrived at the top floor of the inn. The decorations there were extremely simple, seeming rather out of place compared to the majestic inn. The inn was opened by Ken and his mother. Under the protection of the Chanyang Prefecture, the tiny inn had already become the most famous inn in Lore City. Everyone in the city knew about it, and its name had even spread across the entire kingdom of Jessen. However, Ken and his mother only wanted to live an ordinary life. They did not have any lofty ambitions, or with the influence of the Chanyang Prefecture, the size of their inn would have been far greater. Jianshan only saw a woman in very ordinary clothes where Ken and his mother rested at the top floor of the inn. He did not see Ken. Only after asking around did he learn that Ken had already joined the Flame Mercenaries. The woman was only an ordinary person. She was unable to cultivate, so she seemed much older now that she was in her 50s. Jianshan and Yu chatted with the woman for a while before saying, Annie, I have a method to change your constitution, allowing you to be reborn. You'll be able to cultivate like us in the future. As long as you reach Earth Saint Master, your lifespan will greatly increase. Jianshan owed his life to Kendall. Since he was no longer around, Jianshan would repay this debt to Ken and his mother. As a result, Jianshan cared for the two of them in every possible way. If other people had heard Jianshan's words, they would have definitely become wild with joy. On the Tianyuan continent that revered strength and respected the strong, there was no one who did not wish to become an expert because the strong represented status, glory, and wealth. However, the Annie's face did not change at all. Jianshan's words did not tempt her at all. She shook her head. Thank you for your good intentions, young master, but I only want to be an ordinary person and live a peaceful life like this. I only want to go to the other world to accompany Kendall after I die. Kendall is far too lonely over there, so I want to accompany him. A sliver of sorrow appeared in the auntie's eyes as tears glistened. Jianshan fell silent. He knew that the auntie had already learned about Uncle Kendall's death. Although he had always tried to hide it, there was no way he could hide it forever. Coupled with the fact that Ken had already joined the Flame Mercenaries, it was obviously impossible to hide the news of Uncle Kendall's death. Yu went up and grabbed Auntie's hand intimately. She comforted, "Auntie, don't be too sad. Uncle may have passed away, but at the very least, you still have little Three to accompany you in this world. You have to pull yourself together and watch little Three grow up." Jianshun and Yu comforted the auntie. The two of them chatted a lot with her, staying for 4 whole hours before leaving. On the way back, Jianshun was very silent. He was very worried for the auntie, while Yu obediently followed by Jianshun's side. She intimately held onto Jianshun's arm and silently accompanied him. Her eyes were filled with tenderness. Jianshun gently sighed when they returned to Changyang Prefecture. He wanted to change the auntie's fate, but she had chosen to live an ordinary life. There was nothing he could do about it. Since this is the auntie's own choice, let's silently support her, Jianshun said softly. Fighters had the world of fighters, while mortals had the happiness of mortals. He had already thought things through now. Thinking back to all the trials and tribulations he had gone through in the past few years, living an ordinary life was actually a form of happiness. Yu came to Jianshun's side and gently hugged him. Her beautiful eyes were filled with tenderness as she looked at Jianshun. She softly said, "Jianshun, there are actually many ordinary people who live happier lives than us. If you want, Yu wants to live the life of an ordinary person. The world of warriors is filled with unavoidable disputes and killings. It's really tiring." Jianshun gently hugged Yu's slender waist as he sniffed the fragrance from her hair. He said, "Yu, once we break free from the disputes on the Tianyuan continent, let's go to a beautiful place deep in the mountains and live in seclusion. We won't interfere with the matters of the Tianyuan continent in the future, all right?" Yu raised her head and looked at Jianshun in joy. Her beautiful face was filled with yearning. She nodded firmly and said, "I look forward to that day. I hope that day will come sooner." Jianshun smiled. He lowered his head and gently kissed Yu's forehead. He said, "But if we want to live like that, we need to have enough strength to break free from our current predicament. Yu, I need to go to Mercenary City immediately. I'll leave the safety of the Changyang Prefecture to you." Yu's face immediately darkened when she heard that Jianshun was about to leave again. She looked at Jianshun reluctantly and said, "Then you have to come back sooner." Jianshun nodded in agreement before finding Changyang Zuyun Shao. He asked him to open a space gate to Mercenary City. Jianshun was warmly received by the people of Mercenary City. An elder personally came out to receive him. After stating that he had come to see Senior Tianjian, the elder did not say anything else or report anything. He directly brought Jianshun to the hovering divine hall where Tianjian cultivated. Jianshun saw the white-haired Tianjian in the same majestic hall. Even though Tianjian still maintained his appearance as a middle-aged man, his vitality drained away day by day. He did not have much time left. Tianjian looked at Jianshun with gratification. When he first met Jianshun, Jianshun was only an Earth Saint Master. Now that over a decade had passed, Jianshun was like a carp that had leapt through the Dragon Gate. He had grown to his current level at an unbelievable rate. Such talent was unprecedented on the Tianyuan continent. Jianshun exchanged some pleasantries with Tianjian before pulling out an extremely well-sealed box from his space ring. He said, "Senior Tianjian, I've come to give this to you." Under the control of Jianshun's mind, the box slowly flew toward Tianjian. A curious look appeared on Sky Sword's face. He took the brocade box and opened it to take a look. He saw a fruit the size of a fist lying there quietly. Although it looked very ordinary, with his sharp senses, he was able to sense that it was very strange. With his sharp senses, he could clearly sense that the fruit contained an extremely powerful energy and unfathomable truths of the world. The saint's fruit, Tianjian's face immediately changed drastically. Even with his mental fortitude, he struggled to remain calm after seeing the fruit. After crying out, he immediately closed the box, afraid that the energy within the fruit would leak out. Even though the fruit had already reached a state of returning to its original state when it ripened, the fruit was still very precious. Jianshin, the saint's fruit is far too precious. Moreover, you risked your life to obtain it, so you should use it on someone who needs it. I don't have much time left, so it'll be a waste if I consume the fruit. Tianjian returned the fruit to Jianshin without any hesitation. Senior, I won't hide it from you. I only went to the death nest for Senior's sake for this fruit. It originally belonged to Senior, so please accept it, Jianshin said sincerely. He then paused for a moment before continuing, and now that Taita's identity has been exposed, he'll probably become a public enemy of the Tian Yuan continent before long. I hope Senior can become a holy emperor and assist Taita when the time comes. Tianjian became stern. He heavily said, Taita's identity is indeed a huge matter. The experts of the Beast God continent and the Tian Yuan continent will probably come a deal with him. Fortunately, there aren't many holy emperors left. Jianshin, as long as Taita guarantees that he won't lead the 100 races to invade our Tian Yuan continent in the future, I can stand on his side. Otherwise, I won't help you even if you give me the fruit. Don't worry, Senior. If Taita dares to do that in the future, I, Jianshin, will be the first to not forgive him. At that time, I will stand with the Tian Yuan continent and protect the land of the humans with my life, Jianshin swore. Actually, he had no idea what Taita would become in the future, but at the very least, Taita was still his friend, one of his best friends. Tianjian hesitated for a moment before accepting the saint's fruit in the end. He said, Once I become a saint emperor, I will resign from my position as Grand Elder of Mercenary City and leave the city. Otherwise, it will only cause trouble for Mercenary City. Although Mercenary City is powerful and has a heritage so great that no one can shake it, I can't let this sacred place become a place of scorn. Jianshin had achieved his objective in coming to Mercenary City after giving away the saint's fruit. He immediately left the floating divine hall. Tianjian stood in the floating divine hall as he watched Jianshin leave. Only after quite a while did he look away. He stared at the box in his hand in a daze as mixed feelings filled his heart. After quite a while, Tianjian finally let out a long sigh. He shook his head with a bitter smile. I never thought that Jianshin would risk his life to pick the saint's fruit so painstakingly. He's actually giving it to me. Jianshin left the miniature world of Mercenary City through a space gate and returned to the city. Big brother, are you done with your business? Can you play with Xiaoling now? Xiaoling's voice rang out in Jianshin's head. Afterward, her illusionary figure appeared in front of Jianshin, drifting around in front of Jianshin. People came and went on the streets, but no one other than Jianshin could see Xiaoling. Jianshin's gaze became gentle. He began to treat Xiaoling as his own sister. He smiled. Xiaoling, take big brother to the underground space first. I'll go visit my old friends as well. Xiaoling agreed happily, and Jianshin immediately felt an irresistible energy envelop him. Afterward, his vision darkened, and he vanished from the streets without raising anyone's attention. Chapter 1189. Jianshin chuckled. He looked at Xiaoling's pure and cute appearance with both love and affection. He said, Xiaoling, how do you want me to reward you? Xiaoling's reward is that you have to visit Xiaoling often in the future. Xiaoling giggled. All right, no problem. As long as I have the time, I'll definitely visit Xiaoling often. How about that? Jianshin smiled. Yay, big brother, you can't go back on your word. Xiaoling excitedly waved her hands. She was extremely happy. Under Xiaoling's lead, Jianshin saw Mingdong and Huang Tianba, who were still cultivating. The two of them were currently immersed in their comprehension of the mysteries of the world, having entered a state of selflessness. Jianshin only watched from afar. He did not disturb the two of them. In the past few years, they had been cultivating in seclusion, comprehending the mysteries of the world that Xiaoling had created. They used the clearest of perspectives to comprehend the profound truths of the world, which was thousands of times easier than comprehending by themselves in the mist. They progressed at a shocking rate. Huang Tianba had already reached the 8th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler and was not far away from the 9th heavenly layer. At this rate, he would probably become a glorious holy emperor in a year's time. Ming Dong progressed extremely quickly as well. His talent was already pretty good, so with Tian Jian and Xiao Ling's assistance, he had already reached the 7th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. Jianchen did not stay for long. He promised Xiao Ling that he would definitely return to visit her very soon before leaving through the space gate in Mercenary City. Xiao Ling stared longingly in the direction that Jianchen had disappeared in. She murmured, "Master Sin on Big Brother is fading. Looks like it's been a very long time since you've seen Master, but that doesn't matter anymore. As long as Big Brother can visit Xiao Ling often, Xiao Ling will be very happy." Big Brother said that as long as Xiao Ling works hard at cultivating Master's cultivation method, Xiao Ling will be able to see Master in the future. Big Brother won't lie to Xiao Ling. Xiao Ling can't sleep so much anymore. She has to work hard at cultivation. Xiao Ling clenched her fists tightly. She was determined, as if she had made a very important decision. Jinshin returned to Lore City, while Ruijin returned to Lore City after gathering enough dragon saliva grass from Dragon Island. Honglian had finished refining the items she needed to cast down the formation as well, so she emerged from the artifact space. The operation to seal the Protector clan of Chanyang Prefecture was about to begin. Jinshin, Yu, Honglian, and Ruijin gathered together to discuss the exact steps of the operation. Only the 4 of them were participating in the operation to seal the Chanyang Prefecture this time. Blackfish was not participating because he was deeply poisoned. Sealing the passage between the Protector clans and the outside world won't go very smoothly. We'll definitely encounter the powerful obstruction of the Protector clans, and we might even have to face attacks from Emperor armaments. During the operation, I'll have to use the secret technique as hard as I can, so I won't be able to help you. The resistance of the Protector clans will be up to the 3 of you. And during the process of sealing, the space has to be maintained at a stable state. If the space ripples too much, the seal might even fail. As a result, the 3 of you need to enter the miniature world of Chanyang Prefecture and keep them busy. You can't drag the battle outside. Ruijin said sternly. They had to succeed this time. They could not fail, or Taita's identity would definitely be announced by the furious Great Elder of Chanyang Prefecture. Ruijin, how long do we need to keep them busy for you? Honglian asked. Since we're sealing a Protector clan this time, it'll take a little longer. I need 4 hours, Ruijin said. Honglian furrowed her brows. We're fighting in the miniature world of the Protector clans this time. That's their base. Their heritage is extremely deep, so they definitely have various trump cards that they haven't revealed yet. They'll definitely resist with everything they have when we seal them this time. It'll be rather difficult for us to keep them busy for 4 hours with our current strength without affecting the space outside. There's not a lot of energy left in the Moon God Scepter by my master, and the Bright Moon Divine Hall needs to be outside to draw upon the essence of the moon. If we enter the miniature world of Chanyang Prefecture, the Bright Moon Divine Hall will only be able to defend. They won't be able to attack, Yu said. We can't fail this time no matter what. If we don't have absolute confidence, we can't act recklessly, Jianshun sternly said. He could not afford to fail this time. This was because Taita's identity would be exposed prematurely if they failed. If only that girl was here, Ruijin gently sighed. At this moment, he actually thought of the heavenly enchantress. Jinshin also thought of her beautiful figure. It was just a pity that the heavenly enchantress had failed to obtain the saint's fruit and had left resentfully. Jinshin also knew that he would probably be rejected if he asked the heavenly enchantress for help under these circumstances. At this moment, a light sound of a zither pierced through the layers of obstructions. The sound was gentle, as if it contained a boundless magic that could silently influence the minds of others. Jianshun, Ruijin, and Honglian all became alert when they heard the sound. She sure has come at the right time. Jianshun, whether we can successfully seal up Chanyang Prefecture or not will all depend on you. Go and have a good talk with her. With her help, the operation will be much easier this time. Ruijin chuckled as he glanced past Yu. A strange light flashed through Yu's eyes. She blinked her large, bright eyes before remaining silent. She only stared at Jinshin. Jianshin had never thought that the heavenly enchantress would come at a time like this. He said to I'll be right back. With that, Jianshin left. Jianshin could not sense the heavenly enchantress' presence, nor could he tell where the sound had come from. All he could do was use the senses of his soul to search for her again. A while later, Jianshin withdrew the senses of his soul. He shot into the sky, disappearing into the thick clouds in the blink of an eye. Wild winds whistled through the sea of clouds. They were ear-piercing. Jianshin traveled on a white cloud as his robes flapped in the wind. His hair danced in the wind as well. The heavenly enchantress stood in the sea of clouds. Her face was covered by a veil, so her appearance was obscured. However, the zither of the demonic cry was not in her arms this time. Instead, a young, chubby boy stood beside her. She held the boy's hand as invisible world force revolved around him, blocking the whistling winds. Chapter 1190. The boy stared at Jianshin curiously with his large, innocent eyes. His chubby face blushed slightly very soon as his body temperature rapidly rose. The heavenly enchantress held Xiao Bao's hand. She discovered that Xiao Bao's hand had become scorching hot very soon and immediately panicked. She asked in concern, "Xiao Bao, why is your body so hot?" I'm so hot," Xiao Bao said with some difficulty. Xiao Bao said with some discomfort. His little face had already turned red, and the temperature radiating from his body was still rising rapidly. Very soon, it reached a level that ordinary people would not be able to endure. On the other hand, Xiao Bao did not feel any pain other than discomfort. The heavenly enchantress crouched down in a hurry and pinched Xiao Bao's body nervously. She discovered to her surprise that every inch of Xiao Bao's body had become extremely hot, as if he was a piece of red-hot iron. Why is it like this? Why has Xiao Bao suddenly become so hot for no reason at all? The heavenly enchantress became more and more worried. Xiao Bao's body temperature had reached an unbelievable level. If it were any other ordinary person, they probably would have died long ago. Jinshin's face became rather red as well. Not only did the chaotic knight and his Dantian lose control the moment he saw Xiao Bao, but even his blood began to flow faster. If his blood was like a normal person walking normally, it was like a runaway horse right now. It rapidly flowed through his body in an extremely violent manner. Jianshin was surprised. Why had he suddenly changed like this? He could not understand it no matter how hard he thought about it. This was the first time he had encountered something like this ever since he had cultivated the chaotic body. Vaguely, Jianshin felt like he had formed some sort of resonance with the boy. The two of them were attracted to each other, and this was not just the attraction of chaotic force. It was an even deeper attraction of their bloodline. Suddenly, Jianshin seemed to think of something. He stared at Xiao Bao's flushed face in shock as his body began to gently tremble uncontrollably. His eyes were filled with excitement and disbelief. Jianshin slowly arrived beside Xiao Bao on a white cloud. He crouched down and gently rubbed Xiao Bao's head. He asked softly, "Child, what's your name?" Xiao Bao suddenly felt much better when Jianshin rubbed his head gently, but he was still burning up. Even though it was very uncomfortable, the temperature did not continue to rise. Xiao Bao stared at Jianshin's handsome face with his innocent eyes and replied subconsciously, "I'm Xiao Bao." As soon as Xiao Bao finished speaking, the heavenly enchantress pushed Jianshin away. She glared at Jianshin and said furiously, "Don't touch Xiao Bao. Stay away from him." "Xiao Bao, Xiao Bao." Jianshin became rather dazed as he softly repeated Xiao Bao's name. His heart trembled violently, and his gaze towards Xiao Bao was filled with a gentleness that had never appeared before. "This is my child, right? This is Jianshin's son." Jianshin's voice trembled. There was no need for the heavenly enchantress to confirm this, because this was a reaction from their bloodline. Only those with special constitutions would possess such a reaction. The heavenly enchantress was flustered. She had thought of countless ways to hide Xiao Bao's identity before she had come, but she had never thought that Jianshin would see through her with a single glance before she could even say anything. No, this isn't your child. Xiao Bao isn't your child." The heavenly enchantress had lost her usual composure. She stood in front of Xiao Bao in a panic. Xiao Bao's identity had always been her greatest secret. Now that her secret had been exposed, and it had been exposed to the person she did not want to know about it the most, she was in a complete mess. However, even though she denied it as much as she could, Jianxin already knew the answer from her intense reaction. At that moment, his feelings became extremely mixed. Xiao Bao stuck his head out from behind the heavenly enchantress. He studied Jianxin curiously with his large eyes and asked, "Are you daddy?" "No, Xiao Bao, he's not your daddy," the heavenly enchantress hurriedly said. A layer of mist gradually appeared in her eyes. She immediately covered Xiao Bao's eyes with her hands, preventing him from seeing it. "Mother, you're lying. Xiao Bao can feel that it's daddy." Xiao Bao tried his best to remove the hands covering his eyes, but the heavenly enchantress would never let him do as he wished. She rapidly increased the strength of her hands, but she was very gentle, afraid that she would hurt Xiao Bao. "Mother, Xiao Bao wants to see daddy. Xiao Bao wants to see." Xiao Bao shouted loudly. He began to use his full strength. Immediately, a layer of faint gray gas emerged from Xiao Bao's hands. With the appearance of the faint gray gas, the light in the area became somewhat distorted. It was as if the gray gas was absorbing the light. Furthermore, if one were to take a closer look, one would even have the misconception that this faint gray gas contained all the colors in the world. However, in the next instant, all the colors would disappear. When one looked at it again, it was still that faint gray gas, and it was so ordinary. Xiao Bao's strength also became extraordinarily great with the appearance of the gas. He removed the heavenly enchantress' hands from his eyes in a single stroke, causing her to become stunned. Jianxun became rather stunned. He stared blankly at the rapidly disappearing gas in Xiao Bao's hands as his heart churned. Chaotic force. This is chaotic force. How is this possible? Jianxun was extremely shocked. He struggled to believe what he had just seen. Back when he cultivated the chaotic body, he had relied on the assistance of the sword spirits and endured extreme pain. It had been extremely difficult, yet Xiao Bao, who was clearly a child, possessed chaotic force just like him. How could he not be shocked? This was because only Jianxin knew just how rare the chaotic body was. Even before the sword spirits appeared, the chaotic body was as rare as phoenix feathers. Suddenly, two streaks of light, one violet and one azure, appeared above Jianxin's head. They quickly condensed into the figures of a man and a woman. The man was handsome, while the woman was pretty. When they stood together, they seemed like a match made in heaven. The sword spirits, who had not appeared in a very long time, appeared by themselves. They seemed even more consolidated than before. The gazes of the sword spirits landed on Xiao Bao. Their eyes were filled with great joy. The innate chaotic body. There's actually an innate chaotic body here. Xing could not help but cry out. She was overjoyed. Qing Suo clenched her hands tightly as well. She stared at Xiao Bao without blinking at all. She was extremely excited as well. It really is the innate chaotic body and its master's child. Fantastic. This is just fantastic. Jianxun obviously heard what the sword spirits had said as well. He was overjoyed inside. The heavenly enchantress and Xiao Bao were both attracted by the sword spirits. They both stared at the sword spirits. Xiao Bao was extremely curious while the heavenly enchantress' eyes narrowed. She was skilled in soul attacks, and her soul was extremely powerful. She could already sense that the sword spirits were existences similar to souls, but they were different from what she knew. Who are you? What is the innate chaotic body? The heavenly enchantress was filled with caution. She carefully protected Xiao Bao behind her. She could sense an extremely great threat from the sword spirits. She knew that they were an extremely terrifying soul, one that was different from the rest. Qing Suo smiled when she saw how cautious the heavenly enchantress was. She gently said, "Mistress, there's no need to be nervous. We're sword spirits. I'm Qing Suo, and he's Xing. Don't worry, we won't harm you. The chaotic body is the most powerful body in the world. Chaotic force is the most powerful energy in the universe. Mistress, your child is born with the innate chaotic body, so he can control the most powerful chaotic force in the universe. The heavenly enchantress became rather dizzy from what Qing Suo had said. Xiao Bao's body was the most powerful in the world, and he could control the most powerful energy in the universe. Was Xiao Bao not a cripple who could not cultivate, where even 10,000-year-old heavenly resources could not regenerate him? Father, are you father? Xiao Bao did not understand what the sword spirits were saying. His bright eyes landed on Jianshan again. Perhaps it was because they both possessed the chaotic body and were connected by blood, but Xiao Bao felt especially close to Jianshan as soon as he saw him. Unknowingly, he had developed a sense of reliance on Jianshan. Jianshan arrived before Xiao Bao with a single step and picked him up. He rubbed Xiao Bao's chubby face and giggled foolishly. My son, this is my son. I, Jianshan, actually have a son. The heavenly enchantress was stunned by what the sword spirits had said. She was unable to react for a moment. All she could do was watch as Jianshan carried Xiao Bao away. Although she was unwilling to accept this, she was more concerned about what Qing Suo had said. As a mother who did not want their son to stand out in the future. Mother said that Xiao Bao didn't have a father. Mother was lying. Xiao Bao has a father. Xiao Bao crisply said in Jianshan's arms before looking at the heavenly enchantress. He asked in confusion, Mother, Xiao Bao clearly has a father. So why do you keep saying that? Mother is lying. Mother is lying. Xiao Bao was young, but he was extremely smart. At this moment, the heavenly enchantress actually became rather afraid to meet Xiao Bao's innocent gaze. Her expression became extremely mixed. The development of the situation had completely escaped her control. The reunion of father and son had become an unchangeable reality. She could not deny Xiao Bao's identity even if she wanted to. She took a deep breath. The heavenly enchantress slowly calmed herself down. Very soon, she recovered her usual coldness. She turned around with her back to Jianshan. The wind in the sky caused her hair to flutter. Xiao Bao has always been unable to cultivate. I've used 10,000-year-old heavenly resources, but it's useless. Since you know that Xiao Bao possesses the chaotic body, you should have a way to resolve his problem.